Uh-oh. Well, hello. That hasn't happened in a while. Good morning. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Okay. So what I was saying was that it's going to be a very busy day again today. We have tons of economic data, as you can see, from 7:30. We have then Papa Powell coming in at 7:40. We have more data at 8:15, and then more at 9. So we have a very full economic calendar today, and I think that's a good pause zone. Again, we looked at this yesterday, but the CNN Fear and Greed Index is right at the edge of going into extreme greed. So if there's a time where we're going to pause and for the broader market to take a break, I think it's right now. Also, let me pull this up real quick. We'll just look at how things did yesterday. We weren't actually up a ton yesterday either. We kind of started the pause then. If you look, this is yesterday's results. Really, outside of like Google, Nvidia, and Tesla, the broader S&P 500 really didn't have a lot going on, and especially some of the smaller caps didn't do very well. Health tech got clobbered, probably by prescription drug price stuff. So the market didn't do much yesterday, and then again today, if we look at pre-market, we're down again today across it, but nothing crazy. Yesterday we were up 0.1% on the S&P. I want to show that chart real quick, and then we'll get into some of the highlights of other stuff that's going on. So again, this is kind of a natural consolidation zone. We have launched really hard. We're up above the neckline on the S&P, and this would be a place to kind of take a breather and maybe establish a base before going higher. So I do think, though, that Bitcoin will end up being stronger than the rest. If you look in the bottom corner, you can see how Bitcoin right now, just kind of zoom in here a little bit more. You can see how Bitcoin is still in its falling, broadening wedge. I thought it was a diamond pattern, but it actually broke down the wrong way. So it wasn't a diamond continuation. It was a diamond retracement, and it looks like Kevin Svensson was right about that. So he wins that one. But we're getting a nice bounce. We could drop a little bit lower, but we're bouncing here, and I don't hate that at all. And we'll see. It's going to be very dependent upon the economic data today, I think, and then we'll decide where to go from there. But again, like having the S&P, having the NASDAQ take a little bit of a breather with everything that we've seen recently is not a big deal. On top of that, I don't know if you saw this yesterday, we had Qatar offering a commitment of $1.2 trillion. Which is pretty amazing, and that's great. And then again, Saudi Arabian visit. We'll go through some of the highlights of that, since we didn't go through everything with Bitcoin, Tesla, and then the Trump section of my bookmarks yesterday. We'll probably start off with those today. But Saudi Arabia went great. There's a huge bromance between the Prince of Saudi Arabia and Donald Trump, and Qatar. They work to outdo them too. The thing I love about this, and then I think today even we start with United Arab Emirates, so think Dubai. But the thing I love about all this is I love tying economic interest in with I don't want to say freer nations, because Qatar is like a sponsor of terrorism. UAE is a lot. UAE and Saudi Arabia are probably the freer nations in the Middle East. But I like the fact that we're tying some of our economic outcome to them and making it to where they have some dependencies on our technology. I would love to see more of this. I know that's the ambition with China too. We'll see if that can ever happen. But I think intertwining all these economies together is a beautiful thing, and it makes it to where there's less risk of global war and things like that in the future. So I absolutely love that. Let's see. Victor Hernandez. Iron had nice earnings, but seems like no one wants to see. Yeah, Iron's actually not doing too bad. They're down 2.5% in pre-market. The broader market of miners and even MicroStrategy are that way too. 1.6 for MicroStrategy negative today, 1.75 for Mara, 1.77 for CleanSpark, and then again Iron at 2.51. I know Metaplanet had great earnings too, and DLO, one of my they're up 23.55% in pre-market, which is insane. This is one I made a video about a long time ago, and then it had a rough patch as it continued to. Made a video like right over here, and then it just cascaded even further down. So I was very excited. So we're back, essentially. We're back to where we were when I was like, hey guys, this is a great bounce zone for this. So that's cool. And maybe there's some life that will come back in these options contracts. I think I have until 2026. I got to check. But Iron diluted, surprised it's not down more. I think the miners are going to be forward looking over the next couple of quarters, and I don't think they're going to get abused too badly. Yair says, Jesse, how do you feel about Trump accepting the plane from Qatar? I actually have no problem with it whatsoever. Are you concerned that he's selling America's soul? I don't really know that. I don't know. We get gifts from countries around the world all the time. If Qatar's been giving billions of dollars to our universities so that they can get them to riot and scream death to America, I think having them give 400 million for a nice plane that looks cool, and that again, our existing Air Force One is 40 years old, and Boeing and all these companies have done a shit job rebuilding the fleet. So I have no problem with him accepting that gift. I don't think it's a big deal at all. I think it's one that on mainstream media they try and make it into a big deal. They try and tie it within a bunch of other things and make it look like we're gonna owe Qatar something. We don't owe them anything. We're much more powerful than they are, and I think it's okay. I think it's okay for them to give us a gift to try and win some kind of favor with us, even though they probably will never get it. I think that's fine. All right, let me keep going. Let me get this out of the screen. Angela, Elon was at the dinner in Qatar with Trump. Yep, he was. A lot of powerful executives were. Again, there's a lot of like the Coca-Cola company was there, I think, too, and just a bunch of others. We're going to start to integrate heavily with the Middle East, and it's one of the richest, fastest rising regions, like Saudi Arabia, Qatar, United Arab Emirates. These are the rich parts of the Middle East. It makes sense that we start to bring in our business. I love that. History guy scalps. Powell will continue to run away from committing to rate reductions. He should be wearing. Yeah, I think he does have TDS. I don't know if that matters though. I think the rate reductions are going to come no matter what, but we'll see. Even if he doesn't do it, I don't think we need it. I really don't think we need it. We'll talk about how China's money printing was going up by 8% a year and increasing. So I don't think we're going to need it. I think there's enough capital outflows out of China. I think there's enough money printing across Europe and China to negate anything that's happening with our Fed right now. And again, I think just the exporting of deflation is going to be good. I think no matter what, eventually we're cutting here. I think it should be June. I think it should have been May. I think that would have been better for the economy. We want to boost it. And I also think the Fed is pretty irrelevant for the most part. But if they don't do it in June, I mean, July comes around quick enough too. We're literally talking 6 weeks from now, and they'll be forced to do it by then. I see no reason why they won't, unless the economy is screaming, and then we have a completely different set of problems if that happens. Coinbase being hacked, mainly customer information. Oh, okay. Well, I mean, crypto exchanges getting hacked isn't something that's really too exciting, especially if they're not stealing money. That's pretty much was a normal thing. Like every week back in 2017, there'd be some exchange getting hacked. Let's see here. Morning, what are your thoughts on rising yields? Are you still in TLT? No, I haven't been to TLT for a very long time. I bailed out of it because I realized that China could dump bonds and do a bunch of other things. I do think that it's going to start coming down, though, and I was listening to Mark Newton from FS Insight talking about how he believes that's going to start to happen, too. And I agree with him. I even though I think it could take later into the year. I'm very much into Bitcoin right now, Tesla and a number of other things, and looking for those to do really well this year. And then I'm going to probably get into TLT and a few other types of investment, cash obviously too. What are your thoughts on current BTC price and correlation to M2 money supply? I think that a lot of people are paying attention to it, and I think that it shows us getting into the 140 or 150 range. And I think there's truth to it. I think it's very, very representative of what happens, right? Like you create a bunch of money, and eventually it finds its way into Bitcoin, along with a bunch of other parts of the market. And I think Bitcoin is probably the best container, right? Especially right now, getting ready for the parabolic phase of the Bitcoin cycle with all the good news that we have. All right, I'm going to keep going here. Let me see what else. Was there another comment I missed? Palantir, time to short it, Jesse. Why would I short Palantir? Victor Hernandez, the ones with HODL. Yeah, I'm not sure what the rest of the conversation was, but yeah, if you've got a HODL amount, you're going to do better probably with Bitcoin here in the next couple of quarters. Tyler Casamente, what are your thoughts on current BTC price and correlation to M2 supply? All right, I already said that one. Shows 120K by June. MicroStrategy calls. I'm not sure what you mean. I've got MSTX right now, so I don't have calls in MicroStrategy, but I do have leverage right now. Alex Garcia, Jesse, when do you think BTC could make the next move? Within 4 to 5 weeks? No, before that. I think it's going to happen soon. I think it's going to happen soon because I think we're going to be talking about it. But I mean, again, we've got United Arab Emirates this week, and I think the following week is going to be focused on India, and India is going to be fucking awesome. Yeah, SMCI was great. I made 80% on my December 2026 calls. I don't know if people realize how monumental that is, but normally when you're making 80% returns in a fucking day on an options contract, it's for ones that are like a weekly or the monthly, like things that are expiring soon. It's not for something that has, 17 months, 18 months before it expires. Actually, almost 19 months, I think, of this one. So that's pretty awesome. That's a pretty huge move, and that worked out really well for me. Let's get started, though. Let's go through some of the bookmarks. Let's talk about what's going on with macro stuff first, with Trump, tariffs, and geopolitics and all that. Get that out of the way, and then we'll jump into Bitcoin and Tesla. So POTUS departs for Qatar after a successful visit with, or departs Qatar, sorry. And now he's headed off to the United Arab Emirates. And again, I think that starts today. Some of the reactions. So this is a reporter with Sky News here in I think it's Qatar, judging by her little hoodie. It might be in Saudi Arabia as well. But let's listen real quickly to what she has to say.
On for another hour, I could have sat there. The way he did it, the tone of his voice, and the points that he chose. I mean, if you want from a point of social, you want a point from political, you want a point from business, you want a point from defense, you want a point from technology. He covered all those and just did it in such a elegant way.
Truth is that he obviously cares about peace around the world, and he spent his entire 4 or 5 months of his administration sending his emissaries around the world to create peace deals.
So I'd say that it's pretty positive across the Arab world, especially, again, these freer nations. Even Qatar. Like, look at this. This is crazy. It's so weird. It's so weird to see the American flag getting flown in Qatar, a nation that has funded terror against the West. It's such a strange thing to see. But I think it's a good sign. Again, we want to build relationships. We want to squash animosity. You don't always do that just through war. It's not just through war. But I think we've done a combination of showing a lot of strength with like the Houthis in Yemen, with our stance towards Iran. On that note, now we have the Iranian, the officials in Tehran, in Iran, talking about how they're willing to not enrich uranium and nuclear in order to be able to establish some kind of deal and maybe have sanctions removed on their country. So we're looking at some kind of potential deal that could get closed there. And I think that's good too, as long as it's done right. I think that's exciting. Also, I wanted to point out I want to point out more optimism because I don't see it everywhere. I actually like Danielle DiMartino Booth. She's cool, but she's a super bear, like perma bear right now, and talking about the end of the world. Oh, let me go back up. My bookmarks get refreshed. It sucks when you go into these sometimes. The last one just disappears off the list. So let me scroll back down to it. But I wanted to talk about some positive things too. Okay, so I put there's trillions of investment dollars flowing into the United States, $2 trillion that have been committed in the last 24 hours that will start to show in the quarters ahead. Again, these are over 4-year terms. They'll take a while. Along with, but there's a lot of this. Like right now, I think conservatively, we're talking about 7 to 8 trillion. Well, I shouldn't say conservative. 6 to 7 is probably conservative as far as commitments from companies and countries around the world towards investing in the United States of America over the next 4 years. And then we're talking about $4 trillion in tax cuts, even though we're going to increase spending by about $1.5 trillion, but that gives us $2.5 trillion net in additional firepower that's going to go into markets and things like Bitcoin. And again, just into the development of this country. But I said we also have larger inventories from the tariff war becoming much more restrained than originally thought. This will lead to discounting. We're looking at tariffs going from like People were worried they were like at 32% tariffs. Now I'd say 12 to 14% is what we're looking at for the realized tariff rate with what we're seeing, with these 90-day pauses. If that changes, obviously it goes up. But all this is really good. And then at the same time, you got, China, Europe, and other parts, deflating and exporting that to the world. And then you have a push for cheaper energy, which is still ongoing. And then deregulation and everything else. I just think there's so many good things happening. And again, I don't know if I love the speed of Congress at all, but I think it's 9 out of 11 committees that are finished. I think 11 out of 11 are supposed to be done by Friday. And theoretically, we have a vote that's completed, I think, this Friday, if they don't go on vacation early again. I really hate Congress, both sides of Congress. But if theoretically we could have this pass the House and then get pushed out and then volleyed over to the Senate and then have the Senate do their thing, which again, it's going to get modified to shit too. And then they'll try and pass their version and then they'll push it back over again. This is just a part of the process. This is why so many things have to be done with executive order, because Congress is the slow boat to getting anything done and almost impossible at times because all the special interests that are involved. But Speaker Johnson still seems very confident that he's going to get no tax on tips, no tax on overtime, no taxes on loan interest for American-made cars, tax relief for seniors, and the corporate tax rate extension, along with a reduction from 20 to 15%. So I think all that's good. Let me just look over here. SMCI play is awesome. Yeah, it's turning out really good right now. What are your thoughts on banks saying that they're shorting MSTX and MSTU? Yeah, while longing MSTR. I mean, there's people that are short. Jim Chanos is shorting MicroStrategy and then longing Bitcoin. So, I mean, I guess there's layers of shorting across this, right? I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't do that. Not right now. I think that would be a better play 4 months from now, maybe near the end. I don't think it's a good play right now. So I think if anything, it's going to be fuel. Gary Corrett, if SMCI can go 6x, maybe we should load some stock too. Yeah, that's what I do at the end. I do leverage first, right? Because I think, and here, let me pull this up. Because I talked about SMCI. Right now, I had an amazing win with SMCI yesterday. So let me just see how much I have. I think I have $150,000, $160,000. Like, again, it almost doubled yesterday, which is pretty crazy. One sec, I just got to do something. Looks like this timed out. But what I was saying in a post yesterday is I actually think SMCI can go much further. If you look here, if you just draw a line like here to here, here to here, and then what we're looking to do for a breakout, because again, this is a breakout zone. You can tell by this volume. We got a little bit of resistance up here in the 80s, 5-ish range. We start to build up resistance in here. And then once we break out of that, it's pretty much free and clear. I think, though, I think by the end of 2026, it's very possible that we get to 247. I think that might even be the low end. One second, I got to do something here. Oh, nope, wrong thing. 1 second, let me go back. Sorry. I'm trying to get it to where I have access to my stuff here. So I might have to kill that and reload it. There we go. Now I can get into my thing here. 1 second. SMCI. I'm just going to reload it. Beautiful. So yeah, I think it's pretty, conservatively with this company. You got to realize, so this company yesterday got a deal with Saudi Arabia. I think it's Saudi Arabia that gives them a $20 billion contract. Why is that interesting? Because that's basically the revenue for the last 4 quarters for this company, and they just got it from one country on this tour of promoting AI. So there's potential, again, with United Arab Emirates, who's pushing really hard on the AI front too, maybe to get more business there. I don't know. It seems like they're a tag along with NVIDIA. So if NVIDIA is getting more business, it looks like they're getting more business too. So I think that's pretty awesome. And I think it's pretty easy for this thing to go 440%. It's actually a little more than that this morning since we're consolidating a bit after running almost 20% yesterday. 478% upside in a period of a year and a half, I think is pretty astronomical. And then my options can do up to 10x that. I could 40x my money. If we hit this figure up here and get to the golden retracement zone, which I think is very possible, I could 30 to 40x my money. And I love those odds. Those are really good. Yeah, so it looks like it's retraced a little bit from my gains yesterday, but it's saying right here that $163,000. So again, pretty good return, even with a little bit of a retracement today. 67,000 in, 163,000 for a balance. So I'm already up 100K on something that doesn't expire until December of 2026. So I think this one will be a big win. This one I can make $2 to $4 million pretty easily. I sold half of my TSLL 2 days ago. When do you think is best to add more? Half is a big number. I sold like 10% of mine in total since we've shot up. I don't know. Today might be a good one, especially if the economic data comes in weak. Maybe we end up closing that gap. Today might be a good day to get back in. I wouldn't be rushed too quickly to get out of Tesla. Not in a large quantity. Jesse, did you see this? SMI profit margin in its low to 8, about 8%. Yeah. I'm feeling I don't know. I'm feeling really bullish about the future stance of SMCI and where it's headed. I think chips are just going to keep getting built out like crazy. Yeah, I think 400s are pretty easy for Tesla to go to. Martin Pilda, Jesse, I saw your tweet about SMCI. I believe they can do very well, but they are not a chip company. They're a gross margin, 10%. They're systems integrator. Yeah, well, I mean, again, they got 4 quarters of potential revenue here coming in with a new contract. Just out of the Middle East here, and they might, who knows, they might be getting more of those. They're not done doing their tour yet. Martin Pilda, end-to-end solutions for data centers. They do not have chip company multiple in these margins. Yeah, but it's still under 10. It's still under 10 for the forward PE, and I think that's still cheap. Nick, are we buying the dip today, or are we waiting? Yeah, I'll probably buy more today too. A year. Is BTC currently at its longest over 100 streak ever? No. Are you saying just being over 100? No, it's probably comparable. It's a little bit less. If you look over here in the bottom left corner, you can see how it's been there for longer. But the whole point is that it's a great consolidation zone. It's actually, you know what? I don't want to fuck this up, but I'll just fuck it up for a second. I want to show you this. So Bitcoin's in a really great place. Let me just go to the weekly here real quick. Sometimes it's better to zoom out. So I just want to show something here. So there's some rhyme and reason to this, right? If you look, we've perfectly back tested the next fib line, right? So we got our first fib, we got our second fib on our fib extension here. We're above this for the third real time. We've got a lot of volume sitting underneath of us at the current level. We appear to be bouncing off of it. If for some reason we got good economic data today, we're ready to run. We're ready to run another 8% higher, which would probably be outsized for miners. I'd say miners could pull 20% off of 8. They could maybe pull 25%. Some of them maybe 30. That's just the stage we're at right now. After a massive consolidation and a big drop in these miners, the multiple now is going to be to the upside, not to the down. So, but I think if you just look at Bitcoin here, this is beautiful. We've had a beautiful consolidation. I love it, and I think it's very promising. And I think there's a lot of bears now calling for like 78 or some shit, just retarded, stupid numbers coming from people who aren't paying attention to the macro. And I think that's sad that people don't focus enough on the macro, but they don't. So it is what it is. It is what it is, and people get the level of research that they put into things. If you're only worried about technicals all the time and you're not looking at the fundamentals, you're going to miss opportunity. That's just the way it works. I used to buy from SMCI for data center build-outs. They OEM for a lot of smaller companies. They want to slap their brand on. Yep. Good morning from Taiwan. Hey, JT. Vector Hernandez. Gian, Spain. Good morning. Spain. Awesome. Nick, I think it's harder for AMD to 4X. Would think SMCI is more asymmetric. Yeah, it's smaller too, right? Like, what are we looking at for a market cap on SMCI? 26 billion. What is AMD right now? Let's look at that too. I don't know if I'm interested in AMD. That one seems to be like a continual disappointment. Maybe someday they catch up. It just seems like NVIDIA is getting so far ahead. And AMD is 190 billion. So yeah, you're comparing when you compare these two, and then Nvidia obviously is just in another league as far with their deployments. And Blackwell, they're just in another league altogether. What are they at? They're at 3.3 trillion. So you got like 190 billion from AMD, 3.3 trillion for Nvidia, and then a measly 26 billion from SMCI. But again, this is like a small cap. It's going to give you a multiple higher of what the larger ones will do because it's much smaller in scale. So just remember that small caps like this are going to give you a multiple. So we all agree SMCI is more than an asymmetric, but I think it is. I mean, again, it doesn't need to pull in the same multiples of like an NVIDIA, but when it's running a 9.86 forward PE and a current PE of 28, I think it's a steal, especially when the last 4 quarters of revenue, because you got to remember last quarter, they got beat up a little bit. They had a decline in revenue. Everybody thought chips were coming to a halt. And that deployments would come to a halt. And so they lowered their projections a lot. So it was kind of a resetting of expectations, which is great because they've had a nice ramp in revenue. But now we're talking this new $20 billion contract and then whatever ends up happening. Chips aren't going away, man. I think chips are going to do really well. And so insider activity, look at this. Q2 2025, it looks like the insiders are trying to buy. Look at this. It looks like they were selling a little bit at the end of 2024. You can't blame them. But now they're buying again. Institutional ownership is climbing. Short interest is high still, almost in the 20% range. Estimates, this is before the contract they just got for $20 billion of work in the Middle East. And so you can see how you had this hiccup. It's a perfect time to buy, in my opinion. Was in about 25 and sold at 35. I was scared about the audit stuff. Yeah, I get that. I think all that's going to be really good, though. Trump just arrived in Abu Dhabi, it looks like. He's there right now. Let's roll through stuff, though. Let's get into this and move as quick as we can. So, again, I love this, though. I love this. I love seeing the Star Spangled Banner being played in Qatar, of all places. It's so strange. And then Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent yesterday said, our landmark agreement with China is an important first step towards a fair and comprehensive trade deal for the American people, secured by POTUS deal-making prowess. Strong action is needed on fentanyl, and I have meaningfully engaged with the Chinese on next steps to stop this dangerous situation. 1 second here, 1 second. All right, sorry, my daughter's going to school. What I love, though, in these images, if you look through here, you could tell that they're working with these guys. All right, sorry. So my wife was saying that the car is in the garage and my Cybertruck is blocking it. I'm like, I'm on a YouTube video, so maybe you can take care of that. Anyway, but again, we're working together. You can see who's the king at the end of the table here. It's definitely King Bessent. So, but this is good. Look at them all taking notes. But I think this is good. I think this is something where we're going to see. Again, if we make any progress in China, it's good. I said liberal states aren't done printing. So again, we have more money getting generated because the New York governor announced a $400 inflation refund check for millions of New Yorkers. This is hilarious because this actually creates more inflation when you just print money and give it to people. So it's funny how that works. But hey, it's whatever. Maybe they'll buy some Bitcoin. Carl over here says major breakthrough in the U.S.-Saudi alliance. I think this is a good thread and I want to jump into it. First off, you can tell the prince loves Trump. Oh, let me go into the thread. It says $142 billion in military equipment purchases, the largest U.S.-Saudi deal in history. A lot of people don't do the breakdowns of what actually happens in these deals. I want to cover this one. It's pretty good. So $142 billion in our military equipment. Great. Multi-billion-dollar commercial agreements with tech giants locked in simultaneously. So we got a bunch of the Magnificent Seven and the S&P 500 getting benefits from this. Great. It's a complete strategic reset with Middle East presence, and it's just the beginning. He said Trump's strategy is straightforward. Economic ties to create leverage. By binding Saudi wealth to the American industry, he's ensuring Middle East stability directly impacts U.S. prosperity. So the more we help them become stable, the richer we become as their economies grow. Military. So this is a little bit different than outsourcing all of our business there. We're getting paid and we're benefiting from having our industries that are U.S. based in their country, which is great. Military sales alone will create thousands of American manufacturing jobs. The Saudi transformation under MBS earned Trump's explicit approval. His message was calculated. Western intervention failed spectacularly. Oh, this is a better version, I think, of that video from yesterday that you couldn't hear. Let me see if this plays better.
But critics doubted that it was possible what you've done. But over the past 8 years, Saudi Arabia has proved the critics totally wrong. The transformation that has occurred, even by these incredible business leaders. I mean, you had the biggest leaders in business anywhere in the world standing right before us. But the transformation that has occurred under the leadership of King Salman and Crown Prince Mohammed has been truly extraordinary. Such a thing has, I don't think, ever happened before. I've never seen anything at that scale happen before. And I guess, maybe you could say the United States is doing pretty well too, but I don't think too many people have seen that happen before. Majestic skyscrapers, the towers that I see, the difference between now and 8 years ago. And 8 years ago was very impressive, but the towers that I see rising, some of the exhibits that I was shown by Mohammed, what I've seen there is just an amazing, it's an amazing process, an amazing genius of so many people, architecture, but I have a feeling I know where many of those ideas came from. Happens to be sitting right in this room right before me, but the towers and all of the different, I've seen a lot of different towers. I didn't think there's any version of a tower that I haven't seen in one form or another. I just passed 4 exhibits. I have never seen anything like any of them. So it's going to be very exciting.
Yeah. And this wasn't the speech. I was hoping it was the good one. But he said, here's the strategic shift. Commerce replaces military intervention. Regional powers control their own destiny. America supports without occupying. This approach costs billions less while yielding stronger results. So again, we've had this whole regime change thing going on. Hasn't fucking worked at all. We basically come into a country, tell them they're barbaric and stupid, tell them that they need to lower their energy production, tell them how to live their lives, tell them, everything. And it's been pointless. It has not worked. If you look at the Middle East, Iraq, Afghanistan, Libya, all these places, they have not gotten better and more stable from our intervention. We created the mess that's in Iran. A lot of people don't know this, but we helped overthrow the democratically elected government at the time. We were a part of that process, and then we turned it into the shit show that it is today. So we've got decades of meddling in the Middle East that has only created more chaos. And now we're saying, nope, we're not going to do that. We're going to, you guys have done great on your own. We're going to embrace you and try and help you. Data. All right, real quickly, let's hop over. Data. PPI, month over month, negative 0.5%. This is producer price index, guys. Core PPI, negative 0.4%. These are amazing numbers. These are deflationary numbers. This is fucking beautiful. I wouldn't be surprised to see the market pop on this. We're going to look in more detail. Let's see what Rick Schmantelli has to say here real quick.
In March.
1 second. This is good. This is good. This is going to help that chance of getting that June cut, guys. This is good stuff. Remember how the narrative was the complete opposite? We're going to see producer prices skyrocketing. Fucking hilarious.
Welcome back to Squawk Box. Rick Santelli here live at CME HQ with a long list of important breaking news. Let's start out with our May read on Empire Manufacturing at minus 9.2, a little more
I'll do my own assessment in a second. We'll just let him get in here and talk about revisions and all that stuff.
negative than expected. That's the weakest number since minus 20, which was just in March. Now, let's go to retail sales, shall we? It comes in at 0.1, up 0.1%, with a positive 0.1 revision in the rearview mirror to 1.5. And that would be, of course, one of the solid numbers going all the way back to Jan of 0.23 for last month, but right now, 0.1 is a little better than expected. Strip out autos and gas, it gets better.
All right, I can't do it. I'm going to have to. We'll get back to Rick. I just got to go through this on my own. All right, so month over month looks good. Retail sales, 0.1%. So we were expecting, actually, we had a forecast. Consensus was just flat, and forecast was negative 0.1. We got retail sales month over month of 0.1% in the positive. That's good, too. Initial jobless claims, 229,000. That is the same as the previous number, same as consensus, slightly higher than forecast, so that's pretty much in line. New York Empire State Manufacturing Index, a negative 9.2, better than the negative 10, better than the negative 9.6. But again, it's slightly worse than the previous, and we want manufacturing to pick up, not get worse. Philly Fed, though, looking at negative 0.4. The previous was negative 26.4. Forecast was negative 11. Consensus negative 11, forecast negative 10. That's better than expected. So we're actually seeing stronger manufacturing, especially in Philly Fed data, than we thought we were going to see. We're seeing inline jobs data, and we're seeing better inflation-related data for producer prices. Continuing jobless claims. This is a big one too. 1.88. That is a little bit higher than the previous. Underneath consensus and above forecast. So we'll call that in line for now. We don't want to see that jumping a lot, but that's a pretty good number. Retail sales ex autos 0.1%. That is below consensus of 0.3, but tied with the forecast of 0.1. Core PPI year over year, this is the stuff I really like. 3.1% versus a consensus of 3.1 and a forecast of 3.3, well below the 4% that we saw last time. Let's just look at the trend on that one real quick here. So again, this is not, so we saw this and people are like, oh, hey, it's getting too high again. And now it's down here. So again, this makes it look like the Fed is late. It makes it look like the Fed's late because, again, we've got lower tariff regiment now. We're sitting at between 12 and 14% for applied tariff amount from what was 32%, maybe higher at the worst case. So it's just looking so much better right now. But let's keep going down here. So core was 3.3%. That is slightly above consensus. And then let me go back over here. And then for forecast, it's 3.3%, so that came in line. So core came in line, and then regular PPI came in better than expected. Let me refresh. We got more data here. Jesus. Powell is scheduled to talk in like 6 minutes, so we'll probably jump over to that here soon too. All right, so let's just look here. Jobless 4-week average is 230. That's slightly higher than previous. Let's look here. So again, I'm not liking this. I'm not liking the climbing higher, but we've saw much higher numbers here back in 2024 than what we're seeing right now. So not exactly anything to be too scared about. Philly Fed business conditions, wow, went from a 6.9 to a 47.2. That's quite the jump back. So the highest number since November of 2024, and really the highest number in a very long time outside of this blip in November. So second highest readout, guys, going back to July of 2021. Second highest read in Philly business conditions. Love that. So we're seeing strength actually here too. CapEx. Whoa, I love this. I love this. I love this. I love this. I love seeing more CapEx. We want to see companies investing in a brighter future. So this is great. So we were starting to fall off a cliff, and now we've recovered greatly. Again, with the second highest reading going back to 2021 as well. So this is good stuff. Let's look here. Employment ticking up. Boom. Is this the second highest read since 2021? Second highest read since 2022 for employment. So that's good too. New orders went from very negative to positive. That's probably honestly just oscillation, but this is good. This is good because, again, outside of this one mega drop in April, it looks like we're back on track in positive territory again. That's cool. That's cool. Okay, so prices paid, though. What did we get? We inched higher on this one. So prices paid are still a little bit higher. We're at 59.8, so that could be seen as a little bit of bearishness there. Let me see what else. Let's see if we can get a bigger breakdown here. But all in all, looking pretty good. Looking pretty good over here. And again, I expect prices paid to come down because we're going to see shipments coming again, and people have a lot of inventories that they were trying to ramp with. We are seeing markets getting better, though. MicroStrategy is only down 1% right now. Tesla's down 1.46. Palantir's down less than 1%. I don't know. Markets look like they're doing all right. They look like they're in a recovery mode, so this is nice. Let's look here, though. PPI. Let's see. PPI ex food and energy, negative 0.1%. So when you take out food, energy, and trade, it actually went down, whereas we had a forecast of a positive 0.1%. And last time we were positive 0.2. So we're seeing that rolling over in the month-over-month number. In the yearly number, 2.9% versus a previous of 3.5 and a forecast of 3.4. So again, producer prices look really good. Really good. Producer price year over year, 2.4% versus a previous of 3.4. Consensus was 2.5 and forecast was 2.6. So PPI just looks good across the board, guys. Across the board. Retail sales, ex autos and gas, 0.2%. Previous was 1.1. We expected a negative 0.3, so that's better than expected. Retail sales year over year, including the whole thing, was forecast at 1.1, and it came in at 5.2, same as last month. That is a beautiful number. It looks like with revisions, it might be a little bit higher. Looks like last one got revised down to 4.9. So this all looks really, let's see, so 5.2. So there's one other time going back to 2020, the beginning of 2023. So there's one other time where we had a reading this high. Actually, the other one, one other time in over 2 years. So these data points so far are looking great. Let's see if we got Papa Powell speaking at all. I'm just going to real quickly here jump over to the live. Let's see. Oh, that's Mark Mobius. I want to watch him later too. I might skip
of consumers at the beginning of this, and now a little, especially when it comes to motor vehicles.
I do want to hear some of what they're saying.
For now, which that long.
I know what Rick Santelli is going to say. I want to hear what Leisman says because Leisman's like a big lib. Let's see what he has to say.
You did do it. You did while I was looking at plus 0.5.
You just want to put a big yellow highlighter on it, don't you?
I just want us to be able to tell people that are watching if that it wasn't up 0.5 because that would have been much hotter than the estimate. It's just it's not good.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Rick. Steve Leisman joins us now with more. We have not seen the worst case scenario on the tariffs.
Oh yeah, don't feel bad on Palantir, bro. I took profits. I thought I was a badass. I had options and I took profits that were up 600% on Palantir. I think it was in the 20s. It was like 21 or 22. So don't feel too bad. If I would have held those options, I would have done so fucking good. So fucking good. I'd be well over 10 million right now if I would have held those. You're never going to get everything perfectly. And sometimes the technicals don't mean anything because the fundamentals override them. And that's just the way life is. The macro, I would say, overrid it because there was a greater threat with China and World War. And then the fundamentals of the company and their business, they just executed on all fronts. Haven't really skipped a beat. Alex Karp crushes it. And so there's times where, that's why I wish I would have focused less on the technicals with Palantir and more on the fundamentals. And I think people like Amit and Arnie and others that were spending tons of time with Alex Karp, they had an advantage because their confidence level was so much higher. So people miss shit, man. Don't kick yourself too much. Paying taxes, though, so rough. I feel your pain. I paid the highest taxes I've ever had. It's just a hair over $200,000 this last year. I'm expecting next year on the low end to be $500,000. I need to figure out my tax. I need to figure out how to mitigate taxes next year. That's going to be my big focus on the timing of everything, trying to get lower tax brackets and using all the deductions I legally can because tax mitigation is going to be a thing I have to focus on now, I think. But taxes are no fun for anybody. Oh, here we go.
As far as inflation goes, not yet anyway, Steve.
I'm going to look up the Jerome Powell speech, too.
Joe, I don't want to rain on your parade. I just have a question about the weather, maybe, when it comes to this report. If we were just a family channel, we could be very happy about the decline.
He is talking, so I'm going to pull that up real quick.
The post-financial crisis decade had demonstrated the pain that could bring.
1 second.
Inflation would likely decline in a weak economy, raising real interest rates as nominal rates are pinned at zero.
Whoa.
Higher real rates would further weigh
up
on job growth and reinforce downward pressure on inflation. And
inflation. Go back.
Broader support of the marks.
Thank you.
Slow this down a little bit. 1.5 is a bit much.
Thank you, Trevor, and good morning. I'd like to add my welcome to everyone. Thanks for being here. Thomas Laubach's research and his broader support of the FOMC helped us better understand monetary policy, and it is fitting that this work will continue today in his name. Thank you to the authors of the papers, to the discussants, and to our panel participants, and thank you also to Trevor and his team for organizing this conference. A whole lot of work went into bringing this together.
Powell.
As in our last review, the 2025 review consists of three key elements: this conference, Fed Listens events at the reserve banks around the country, and policymaker discussions and deliberations supported by staff analysis at a series of FOMC meetings. In the current review, we will reconsider aspects of our strategic framework in light of the experience of the last 5 years. We will also consider possible enhancements to the committee's policy communication tools regarding forecasts, uncertainty, and risks. In 2012, the FOMC first codified our monetary policy framework in a document entitled The Statement on Longer-Run Goals and Monetary Policy Strategy, which we refer to as the Consensus Statement. The language in the opening paragraph, which has never changed, articulates our commitment to fulfilling our congressional mandate and to explaining clearly what we're doing and why. That clarity reduces uncertainty, improves the effectiveness of our policy, and enhances transparency and accountability. As chair, Ben Bernanke led the committee through the creation of that initial consensus statement, adopting a 2% inflation target and outlining our approach to achieving our congressionally assigned dual mandate. The framework laid out in that document broadly aligned with best practices for a flexible inflation targeting central bank. The structure of the economy evolves over time, and monetary policymakers' strategies, tools, and communications need to evolve with it. The challenges presented by the Great Depression differ from those of the Great Inflation and the Great Moderation, which in turn differ from the ones we face today. A framework should be robust to a broad range of conditions, but also needs to be updated periodically as the economy and our understanding of it evolve. From 2012 to 2018, the FOMC voted at each January meeting to reaffirm the consensus statement, in most years without substantive changes. In 2019, we changed that practice,
We're back
conducting our
behind
first
3
ever
minutes,
public
but
review,
we're catching up.
and said that we would repeat such reviews at roughly a 5-year interval. There's nothing magic about a 5-year pace. We believe that frequency is appropriate to reassess structural features of the economy and to engage with the public, practitioners, and academics on the performance of our framework. Several of our global peers have adopted similar approaches to their framework reviews. At the time of the last review, we had been living for about a decade in a new normal characterized by proximity to the effective lower bound, with low interest rates, low growth, low inflation, and a very flat Phillips curve. If I could capture that era with one statistic, it would be that the policy rate had been stuck at the lower bound for 7 long years following the onset of the global financial crisis in late 2008. After liftoff in December 2015, we were able to raise the policy rate only very gradually over a period of 3 years to a peak of just 2.4%. 7 months later, we began reducing it, leaving the rate at 1.6% in late 2019, where it would be when the pandemic arrived a few months later.
He goes full auctioneer
Policy
speed.
rates in other major advanced economies were even lower, in many cases below zero, and in all such economies, inflation regularly ran below its target. The sense at that time was that when the economy next experienced even a mild downturn, we would be right back at the lower bound, probably for another extended period. The post-financial crisis decade had demonstrated the pain that that could bring. Inflation would likely decline in a weak economy, raising real interest rates as nominal rates are pinned at zero. Higher real rates would further weigh on job growth and reinforce.
This is really boring. He's giving us a history lesson. We'll see if it gets better. I'm probably going to fast forward just a little bit to get caught up, guys. I hate the history lesson. This is going to be fast, I know.
Downward pressure on inflation and inflation expectations. Reflecting these concerns, we adopted a policy to make up for persistent shortfalls from the inflation target, an approach that was common in the extensive literature on the risks associated with the lower bound. Given the downside risks to employment and inflation from proximity to the lower bound, and the need to anchor longer-term inflation expectations at 2%, we said that following periods in which inflation has been running persistently below 2%,
we're all worried about
we would likely aim
inflation,
to achieve
Papa
inflation
Powell.
moderately above 2% for some time. We also concluded that policy decisions would be informed by assessments of shortfalls rather than deviations from maximum employment. The change to shortfalls was not a commitment to permanently forswear preemption or to ignore labor market tightness. Rather, it signaled that apparent labor market tightness would not, in isolation, be enough to trigger a policy response, unless the committee believed that, if left unchecked, it would lead to unwelcome inflationary pressure. This change reflected our experience with long expansions that featured historically low unemployment amid low and stable inflation, suggesting that a policy approach that carefully probed for the maximum level of employment
he's trying to get a soft landing,
labor
right?
Without risking price stability. In the years just prior to the pandemic, for example, unemployment was at multi-decade lows while inflation ran below 2%. By December 2019, estimates of the longer-run unemployment rate had fallen sharply. The use of shortfalls acknowledged that a combination of low inflation and low unemployment does not necessarily pose an adverse trade-off for monetary policy. The economic conditions that brought us close to the lower bound and drove the changes in our consensus statement were thought to be rooted in slow-moving global factors that were likely to persist for an extended period, at least until our next 5-year review. And that might well have been the case had the pandemic not intervened. The idea of an intentional moderate overshoot proved irrelevant to our policy discussions and has remained so through today. There was nothing intentional or moderate about the global inflation that arrived a few months after we announced our changes to the consensus statement, and I acknowledged as much publicly in December 2021. We fell back on the rest of the framework, which called for traditional inflation targeting. Through the end of 2021, FOMC participants continued to forecast that inflation was likely to subside fairly quickly in 2022, with only a moderate increase in our policy rate. That projection was consistent with other central banks with different frameworks and the vast majority of forecasters.
Yeah, we remember how you fucked up 2021. Can we move forward?
When the evidence showed otherwise, we hiked 525 basis points over a period of 16 months. The most recent data suggests that 12-month PCE inflation was 2.2% in April, far below its 7.2% peak in 2022. Yeah. And in a welcome and historically unusual result, as this room knows, this disinflation has come without the sharp increase in unemployment that has often accompanied a campaign of rate hikes to reduce inflation. The economic environment has changed significantly since 2020, and our review will reflect our assessment of those changes. Longer-term interest rates are a good deal higher now, driven largely by real rates, given the stability of longer-term inflation expectations. Many estimates of the longer-run level of the policy rate have risen, including those in the Summary of Economic Projections. Higher real rates may also reflect the possibility that inflation could be more volatile going forward than during the intercrisis period of the 2010s. We may be entering a period of more frequent and potentially more persistent supply shocks, a difficult challenge for the economy and for central banks. While our policy rate is currently well above the lower bound, in recent decades we have cut the rate by about 500 basis points when the economy...
I love how he tries to pretend that the supply shock was the reason for inflation in 2021, for why we had persistent inflation. It wasn't the $4 trillion in money printing, or whatever, 2+ trillion at that time. It wasn't all the money printing. It wasn't the nobody has to pay their mortgage, nobody has to pay their student loan, here's a bunch of fucking money. It wasn't that. That didn't, increasing the money supply by 40%, that didn't cause the inflation. It was some ships being backed up for a fucking while. Why were they backed up? Let's do first principles. Why were the ships backed up? Is it because everybody was locked in their fucking house and then you printed shit tons of money where people couldn't go anywhere, so they just bought shit online?
Ugh, recession.
It's fucking
Although
stupid.
Getting stuck at the lower bound is no longer the base case, it is only prudent that the framework continue to address that risk.
Fuck you, Powell.
While the framework must evolve, some elements of it are timeless. Policymakers emerged from the great inflation with a clear understanding that it was essential to anchor inflation expectations at an appropriately low level. During the Great Moderation, well-anchored inflation expectations allowed us to provide policy support to employment without risking destabilizing inflation. Since the Great Inflation, the U.S. economy has had 3 of its 4 longest expansions on record. Anchored expectations played a key role in facilitating these expansions. More recently, without that anchor, it would not have been possible to achieve a roughly 5 percentage point disinflation.
He's trying to tell you why the Fed's relevant.
Keeping longer-run inflation
we
expectations
saved everything,
was a driving
guys.
force behind establishing the 2% target in the 2012 framework. Maintaining that
We're not
anchor
the
was a
ones
major consideration
creating the
behind changes in
dislocations to
2020.
begin with.
Anchored expectations are critical to everything we do, and we remain fully committed to the 2% target today. In the current review, the committee is engaged in discussions about what
he's single-handedly bringing down the market.
We plan to complete consideration of specific changes to the consensus statement in coming months. We're paying particular attention to the 2020 changes as we consider discrete but important updates reflecting what we have learned about the economy and the way those changes were interpreted by the public. In our discussions so far, participants have indicated that they thought it would be appropriate to reconsider the language around shortfalls. And at our meeting last week, we had a similar take on average inflation targeting. We will ensure that our new consensus statement is robust to a wide range of economic environments and developments. In addition to revising the consensus statement, we will also consider potential enhancements to our formal policy communications, particularly regarding the role of forecasts and uncertainty. As we have been reviewing assessments of the 2020 framework...
Keep in mind, they look at backward data that takes sometimes 100 days to catch up with trueflation.
And of policy decisions in
100.
years. A common observation is the need for clear communications as complex events unfold. While academics and market participants generally have viewed the FOMC communications as effective, there is always room for improvement. Indeed, clear communication is an issue even in relatively placid times. A critical question is how to foster a broader understanding of the uncertainty that the economy generally faces. In periods with larger, more frequent, or more disparate shocks, effective communication requires that we convey the uncertainty that surrounds our understanding of the economy.
It's down so far, but yeah, maybe.
We will examine ways to improve along that dimension as we move forward. So let me end by saying thank you again for being here. We've been looking forward to this. All of us have been looking forward to being with you.
The questions will be the only
and
interesting part.
Will occur over the next 2 days. These discussions will help broaden and deepen our thinking about these issues, and they're critical to the success of these reviews. Thank you very much.
There's over 20,000 people that work at the Fed, and this is what they can do. This is the best of it. Is that it?
All right, thank you very much. We are going to just roll right into our first paper session today.
That was literally it. What a fucking waste of time. What a fucking waste of time. All right, let's listen to the rest of this here from Leisman.
Decline in producer prices.
Fuck.
However, the big decline here is in this really funky category which measures margins. And
maybe
so
that's why,
the margin number...
maybe why yields aren't falling as much, like Rick said. Right?
Well, here's the thing. Because we have to care about... We're an everybody channel here, right? We care about the prices that people pay. And those are down and negative. But we're also a channel that caters to investors, and we care deeply about the profits that companies make. And so what this report in the PPI is showing is a big decline in margins. And that's really...
This is all so fucking stupid, though, because, again, this isn't factoring in the fact that, well, we'll look at Chinese ships and all these things that are coming over that are seeing a massive surge now since the tariff rate has dropped from 145% to 30%. But this isn't factoring the fact that the floodgates have opened up again, too. So this is just really fucking stupid.
A big part of the source of the decline here.
The entire Fed
holding the line, Steve?
Well,
obliterated.
Now, that's where I'm at here, Joe. I'm getting there. I'm sorry I'm taking so long. It's a little complicated, but
no, we're used to it.
It could be. It's early days, Joe, but it could be that what we're seeing initially here is an absorbing of the margin, of the tariffs into the margin of producers in some cases. I can't say in all of the cases.
No shit.
That could be step number one. I was fascinated this morning by the Walmart report suggesting that the price hikes are coming, which means that they'll absorb margin for a while. So my point is, yes, it's very good that we don't... Sorry, Joe?
Yeah, they did say that. You're right. They said for now.
Right. Okay, so let me see if I can try to create at least an initial 7 minutes after the data narrative.
Don't rain like as much rain as we've gotten here in the last couple of days. Just a little bit.
Yeah, that's essentially it. You're 100% right.
I'm trying not to rain too much. I just want to say we need to be careful here from a profit
not really,
standpoint.
That's not true. It's a narrative.
Somebody has to absorb the tariffs here. Again, it could be early days. There could be other reasons for the margin.
Whatever. This doesn't have anything to do with the actual data that was reported today. This is just him injecting thoughts into it.
Decline here. I'm just telling you that the big part of the PPI decline came in this very funky margin portion. And Rick is right that the retail number was a little bit hotter than expected. However, just getting back to that, the idea that the control group is the part that feeds into the GDP number was negative, and a negative surprise suggests that there was this idea of the front running of consumers at the beginning of this, and now a little, especially when it comes to motor vehicles, a little fall off here. But very quickly here, just want to point out that the idea that jobless claims are controlled is a very good thing. Now, Fed Chair Jay Powell,
that's the good thing he got
right
from this.
Now,
it wasn't the great
and I want to
PPI.
talk to you about this issue of...
All right, whatever. So we got what we needed. It looks like there wasn't much there. So again, the data was good. So he's saying that, hey, some of the reason the PPI is down is because of the fact that margins were down. I think that is to be expected. And again, that's a temporary move. Prices going up, they don't have to go up a lot if what happens with the tariffs stays more reasonable to what it is now. And again, we're getting tariff revenues based on that. We've got tons of investment coming into the United States. We've got more things to look at here, so I'll jump over to those. I want to finish this thought here. So again, we've got tie-ins with the Middle East that are being created that are going to be beneficial to all of us. We've got Iran looking to come in line too because they don't want to get the shit bombed out of them by Israel. And they want to create some kind of goodwill with us. And this is going to benefit everybody. This is going to benefit everybody. The fact that the Houthis haven't attacked a ship in a very long time in the Red Sea is beneficial. We just need to start getting those ships to go back through there. The fact that Iran is looking to close a deal and that we're looking at some kind of peace dividend. The fact that Trump is looking to get the Nobel Prize. It looks like he's the front runner for a Nobel Prize right now, I think is good. And all these relationships in the Middle East that we're building where we're not trying to do a regime change and where these guys are becoming bros, I think is going to benefit everybody. Again, Mike Johnson is actually really optimistic about the one big beautiful bill, even though a bunch of other people are saying negative things about it. Let me kill this real quick.
Welcome back.
Let me kill that. I got that running still down below. But again, I'm just going to point to the fact that the Saudi deal was a good one. And then we have a $1.2 trillion deal with Qatar. And then we're taxing the endowments of these universities, or talking about it. And we're stripping away the money that we give to them that can be put back into our coffers. And Doge is still doing their work. It's just all really beautiful. Let me see here. I want to see what else. This is great too. I fucking love this. If you guys didn't see this yesterday, we'll be getting into the U.S. economy and the Bitcoin and Tesla part here in a second. But, and again, we have more data coming out in about 15 minutes. But this is RFK going off in regard to just, getting attacked and his response to it. It's beautiful. Listen to this.
38% of our youth now are diabetic or pre-diabetic. That was 0 when I was a kid. Anybody thinks that we did gold standard medicine in this country from these institutions, look at our children. They're the sickest children in the world. Laura, you say that excuse me, Congressman DeLauro, you say that you've worked for 20 years on getting food dye out. Give me credit. I got it out in 100 days.
I'll give you that credit.
All right, so let's work together and do something that we all believe in, which is have healthy kids in our country, for God's sake.
Fuck yeah. I love this administration on all fronts. I think it's wonderful what we're doing. How would this impact services like Netflix? Oh, this is old. Let's get out of here. So let's jump out of the Trump part. Let's jump over. I actually want to we'll go to U.S. economy and then we'll get into Bitcoin. So again, China's money supply is growing roughly by 8% a year. That's only going to increase. I think that could be 10% or more this year. This is a huge amount of inflation in their money supply that will find its way out, and we will end up benefiting from it, especially Bitcoin. Seth Golden just said, hey, the NASDAQ 100 bullish percent index is the highest since December of 2024. It will not stay up here. It always results in some degree of price and sentiment consolidation. So again, this is kind of the normal area here. Feed the ducks, bulls in the green. And then when it's very bearish, like in April, where we're talking about you should buy, it obviously has launched up a lot since then. So he's just saying, hey, if it slows down, if there's some things that sell off, that's perfectly normal. I wanted to put this in here because, again, there's this mass exodus out of the UK. A lot of this is that they killed their famous non-dom tax haven status. Big mistake. Meanwhile, Italy rolled out the red carpet. So you're seeing, again, what we're looking to do for passing lower tax brackets, especially for corporate America. Bernie Sanders will tell you that we're going to give $230 billion to the rich. What he's not telling you is some of those rich are literally a mom and pop fucking business who benefit from a better corporate tax environment, who can finally hire a fucking employee, and who are nothing like a billionaire. And they'll be getting a bunch of this money. We want better corporate tax rates. We want that because when you get rid of them, like if we didn't pass the previous Trump tax corporate rates, we would see an exodus of capital out of this country, like what we've seen from the UK. UK obviously has a lot of other issues going on too. But when you have a really shitty business environment and you're taking away free speech and you've got crime increasing, this is the kind of shit that happens. This is why we're trying to do the opposite. This is why we voted in Trump. This is why we're cracking down on immigration. This is why we're cracking down on crime. This is why we're working on deregulation, better taxes, to benefit everybody, not just the rich. We want companies to do really well because when companies do well, it's not a zero-sum game. It doesn't mean that poor people lose a bunch of money when companies do well. If anything, it means they have a better opportunity to make more money and to get a job and to have a better life. It's not zero sum in this kind of world, guys. It's not. And a lot of people think that way, and it's just really fucking stupid. Kobayashi letter. Foreign investors are pouring money into the U.S. stocks again. U.S. equities have attracted $1.5 billion in net flows over the last month, the most since February. So you can see, again, while foreign money was coming out and everybody had this stupid narrative about investing in Europe and other parts of the world, if the United States isn't doing well, if the United States isn't doing well, the whole fucking world isn't doing well. So this was a stupid narrative, but it's finally turning around and people are like, oh, maybe we should be invested in America. And again, James E. Thorne says, peace dividend is coming. Iran deal is not on Wall Street's bingo card. So again, the war between Gaza and Israel is coming to an end. The war with Russia and Ukraine, I think, strongly is coming to an end. I don't think it benefits anybody, including Putin. And then you have at the same time what was happening with Iran kind of and the Yemen's attacking, the Houthis attacking ships. That's coming to an end. You have everybody worrying about what was going to happen with China. And now, it looks like China is the one that caved. They want to play ball. They're still getting 30% tariffs. We're only getting 10 on ours. And otherwise, we're getting access to all the stuff we were getting before and promises to do a bunch of the things that we were asking for. So I feel like that's a win for us, too. And then if we can squash some of the stuff going on with Iran, it's just going to get better and better, guys. Again, we got Abu Dhabi, we've got that happening today and for the rest of the week, and then we have India next week, and that's the big one. People they're not thinking about trade relationships with India. Those are probably going to be some of the biggest fucking ones that we have and the most beneficial to us in regard to relationship for like minerals and, again, more importantly, manufacturing away from China. Because you got to remember, the base in India is like 1/5 the cost for average wages of what you have in China. So it's much, much cheaper to produce there. We just got to get over a bunch of hurdles, and they need a bunch of deregulation too. I wanted to point this out. Zero Hedge said the post-Liberation Day rebound is almost as fast as the COVID bounce. Only difference is this time is that the Fed didn't inject several $1 trillion. So again, if you look here at the pandemic, and then you look at what we're experiencing right now, this is such a good bounce. It's definitely a continuation pattern, and it's one where, I mean, with like a high degree of probability, like 99% plus. But it's one where, again, we didn't have to inject a bunch of money, and if anything, now just lowering rates and not doing quantitative tightening, not selling off the balance sheet with the Fed, would be hugely beneficial for reigniting the economy. And I think eventually we get there, no matter what. If it doesn't happen in June, it happens in July. Again, Qatar, this was from yesterday, they're buying 160 Boeing aircraft. So they just helped a major company in the United States that's been struggling a lot since the pandemic get a huge contract with Qatar to buy a bunch of planes. And bookings for container ships from China to the United States increased by more than 50% this week, according to Hapag Lloyd, via the Wall Street Journal. And so this is one that is not fake news. This is good. Again, we want the ports to be filling up. We didn't have that much of a disruption to begin with. They were only slow for like weeks, not even a month. So that's a good thing. Let's see here. And again, in regard to rate cuts, I want to reiterate this. I actually think there's a number of reasons why we should cut rates. I said inflation data continues to come in light. We just saw that with PPI today. Even though producer price was higher, we saw PPI looking better. Importers, and again, and that whole like it's eating into their margins, and then eventually they're going to start to raise prices. That's not as big of a deal. And we have a bunch of inventory now that people thought they would need and that they would burn through quickly, and that they wouldn't be getting any new supply. Now they're going to be getting new supply, and they've got a bunch of inventory. If anything, I would start to see some price cuts coming into here. That can still hurt margins for some of these guys too. But it's better to be open and to not be tight. And so then at the same time, again, tariffs just aren't as scary as they were. The rates dropped by like almost 2/3 from what it was at its high. The Fed is tighter than the natural rate of inflation right now, and they're selling off holdings. So they should, if the fears, again, what was the main narrative that Powell was talking about? He was saying, hey, we've got two mandates, inflation and jobs. Jobs still look good, but we're starting to see data that shows that things could be weaker in manufacturing and other areas of the economy. At the same time, the big boogeyman that he was scared of, inflation, and the threats of it from tariffs, from uncertainty from tariffs, that was the big narrative over the last week plus. That is going away. So it's a lot harder to use that as an excuse. And again, truflation is getting better. I do think it's closer to 1.7 today. Powell's data usually is about 90 to 100 days behind this. But again, sub 2% is a good number. And then real estate prices are dropping on average right now across this country. Shelter is a huge component. Insurance is a big component. These are still set to pull down. And then we have lower energy prices. I don't think there's any excuse for the Fed not to cut. Again, we're just not seeing the inflation that they keep talking about. We're not. All right. And then people were talking about student loan delinquency. I wanted to talk to this real quick. So people are like, oh my God, guys, look, credit card and student loan delinquencies are going parabolic is what it says. I don't know if you can call it parabolic. Now, credit cards have went up, but again, this is the bottom quintile. And student loans aren't even close to where they were before they halted student loan payments. So I don't think you can call it parabolic quite yet. I think you would need more data points to be able to make that accusation. Barclays updated its forecast to not entering a recession. Again, everybody's changing. Everybody's flopping all over the place. The one thing to keep in mind is that this is actually even lower now for the put-call ratio. So again, all these shorts have kind of been washed out. I think that's something you got to realize. So that is a big deal. Let's actually jump to Tesla next here. And we still got about 7 minutes until we get our more additional data points. All right, Sydney, did you see the news with Trump says he didn't want Apple building in India? Do you think it's a negotiating tactic? I think it's a negotiating tactic, partially. I mean, I think he would rather have Apple building as much as they can here. And I think that's the way it should be. And Apple has already dedicated, I think, a huge amount of money to, tell me what it is, guys, if it was a $500 billion or $250 billion or something like that, to building in the United States, I think between like 11 or 13 factories. So there's a lot going on there too. But Trump is always negotiating. I think that's a given. Christopher, every once in a while, Jesse casually uses the word quintile, and I'm reminded how truly intelligent the guy really is. Thank you. I appreciate that. Sawyer, if only someone told us, for a high school dropout, that's really appreciated. If only someone told us that it was going to be okay, right? Dario says $500 billion for Apple. So they're doing a pretty decent part already. Dalton said, this is heavily camouflaged vehicle spotted at Giga Texas earlier today. What do you think? Now, when you're this far out in the camera, it can distort views. This could be a Model Y, but why would you be covering a Model Y? That doesn't make any sense. It looks to me like it's smaller. It looks like it's a more compact version of a Y. But again, lens distortion is a very real thing. I don't know if we got any more confirmation. This came last night. It's not a Model 3. Somebody said a facelift on a Model 3. It's definitely not a Model 3. I can tell it's too tall. I own both. And it's not that. So that's weird. Let's see what comes from that. Sawyer Merritt, news, the FCC considers GPS alternatives. SpaceX says its Starlink satellites are already up for the task. Again, there's almost 8,000 of these things floating in low Earth orbit. Does my mic peak a little bit? It looks like it does. I'm going to bring it down just a hair. I'm going to bring it down to like 6.0. I don't want to get too peaky on my mic here. But SpaceX is already doing this. It makes way more sense. You got better latency with Starlink satellites. It's a great alternative to GPS. It should be a backup. Hell, it should be the primary. But we should at least have it as a backup, if nothing else. And I think that's going to come. Also, the number one technical analyst on Wall Street, I don't know. I think this is from like the technical rating agency. I forget what they're called. You guys probably remember in chat. But he said that Tesla is a good bet. I'm trying to fix my mic again. I still see it peaking over here. I want to try and get that right. And that we're going to $500, before the end of the year. And I think that's probably true. Again, I think we can get up to 600. Sawyer said Neuralink is launching their first clinical trial in the Middle East. It says we're launching our first clinical trial at Cleveland Clinic, Abu Dhabi, in partnership with the Department of Health Abu Dhabi. The UAE Prime trial explores how individuals with motor and speech impairment can use thought to control devices and communication. So again, just another one of Elon's companies branching out and getting bigger and more powerful. And again, there's so much wealth in the Middle East. We should tie in with that. We should help them avoid radicalism, but we should do it covertly by just partnering with them to avoid war and controversy and not fight with them and not tell them how they should exist. I think that's a much better way to go. So again, The Verge 4 years ago mocked and said, don't overthink it. Elon Musk's Tesla bot is a joke. Now the actual Optimus robot can dance probably better than that person did. And I don't think it's anything small to say that while in Qatar, there were 2 Cybertrucks that were driving the motorcade. Again, there's lots of little signals along the way, guys. Tesla's FSD is looking to get highway approval in Europe, expected into September. It's a start. Europe is slow as fuck and horrible with regulation. Yeah, I would say, what do you think? Do you think Optimus is dancing better than that person? I think he is. Shay said, Tesla's just an EV company. Ignore the robots, AI, energy, and supercomputers. You can ignore them at your own peril. When they're driving out their own cars, they're getting ready to drive all the semis. You got the cybercab driving people, and you got a robot that can dance way better than I've ever been able to my entire life. You can ignore that at your own peril. And again, we talked about this. I might have covered this yesterday, but Blue Sky is dying. Blue Sky hasn't even... their own site hasn't posted anything in 18 days. This was an X killer, and now it's gone. Waymo announced a partnership with Volvo 5 years ago. Waymo would become the exclusive L4 global partner for Volvo. No Waymo and Volvo self-driving cars are yet on the road. So again, a lot of partnerships end up being claimed over time, and they don't end up going anywhere. Anyone check on Meet Kevin and his PP? I think his PP has been dissolved, so he no longer has PP. Let's see here. Mike said, it didn't take Optimus long to dance better than me. Right? Didn't take long at all. Me too, brother. Mag said, Bitcoin is consolidating near its all-time high. The main daily resistance is at 106.5. Once flipped, it will go vertical. I agree with this actually perfectly. And again, we're also above key fib level. We bounced nicely off it. We bounced perfectly off of the perfect bounce. It's just all really good. Bitcoin historian said breaking central bank of Russia just acknowledged Bitcoin as the highest performing asset. Again, this means something. These are quiet signals being thrown out to you guys. It's also not a very quiet signal when you have 5 companies in 2 days that bought $3 billion worth of Bitcoin between Strategy, Nakamoto, MetaPlanet, GD Culture, and 21. They acknowledged the purchase, and I don't think all of it happened within that 2 days, but some of it might have been agreed upon and been in storage and kind of held. But $3 billion of inflows that were announced in a period of 2 days. Jack Mahler's talking about how we're shifting towards a world where the U.S. dollar is backed by Bitcoin. I've been saying this for the last several years. It's really nice to see this come to fruition and more people to realize it. And Jack Mahler's is a visionary. Yes, this is his closet. No, I don't know why it's empty. But here we go.
There's a little over 900.
Why does he do his YouTube videos from it? No idea.
$1 trillion worth of stuff us humans own.
Bitcoin nearing 103,000 if we look down in the corner, guys. So it looks like it's starting to recover fairly well. And it looks like broader markets still seem to be getting hit a little bit by what happened with Papa Powell, and just again, maybe people not happy because margin pressure in general stocks. But I think I'm right so far. It looks like Bitcoin is bouncing better than the broader market, which is fucking awesome.
Today, that's money, sovereign debt, equities, real estate, precious metals, collectibles, art, Bitcoin, et cetera, et cetera. About half of that, Natalie, we've monetized. We use as a savings account. Yep. So I would say the dollar will increasingly not be used for that. I don't think sovereign debt will either. I think we'll continue to see a rotation into money that carries the properties that the market demands, which is fixed supply, some scarcity element, divisibility, transportability, and ability to sovereignly hold it on your own. I think Bitcoin is going to be the best competitor to go after that market. Can the dollar remain the world reserve currency? Sure. Right? Like, listen, if the United States buys enough gold and Bitcoin, can Trump one day come out and say, we've devalued the debt enough, we own enough Bitcoin, all your dollars are backed by Bitcoin, consider problem solved? Yeah, of course.
Totally.
If they come out, devalue the debt enough, and build a Bitcoin position that's $50 trillion over the next 10 years, problem solved. All your dollars are backed by Bitcoin. So that keeps the dollars the world reserve currency because your hot dog on the corner is priced in dollars. But the reality is the capital, the value that humans are creating, saving, and then later exchanging is actually persisted in an instrument that isn't the dollar. There's just that's the world I think we're very rapidly heading towards.
Yeah, I love Mahler's so much. He's currently now the CEO of 2 different new companies. One of them is doing the Bitcoin lending. Another one is the Bitcoin treasury company. And then he also had created Strike previously. And he's super rich. His father, I want to say, was a part of the creation, I want to say, the Chicago Mercantile Exchange, or at least a founding father in it. or maybe it was his granddad. I can't remember. It's probably his granddad. That would make more sense. But he's a minimalist? Yes, he kind of is, even though he's doing a YouTube video from his closet, and the closet is fucking huge and probably like 500 square feet and bigger than any closet I've ever had in my life. Yes, I would call him a minimalist, but I love what he's saying here. I think it's very true. I don't think enough people think about it. But we are very quickly approaching a time where the dollar is backed by Bitcoin. And the country that's embracing Bitcoin the most is the United States by far. We make up we're getting closer to 40% of the hash for the entire world coming from our country, including Canada. It is. North America is consuming, not quite half, but getting closer to that in regard to hash rate. And I love that. I want democratic societies to be a part of that. Europe, almost non-existent in it. Russia, a decent amount. Kazakhstan, a really good amount. China, a good amount, even though it's banned. But this is all good stuff. It's good that we embrace this. Meet Kevin's page got a UTI. What are you talking about? Is he still doing videos? Mahler's is a minimalist. What is his background in empty closet? I think I have no idea. Theo, he sold them to buy BTC. Yeah, he sold all of his clothes. Jack Mahler's 21, now has the third largest Bitcoin treasury with 30,000 BTC, 300 million, and just getting started. Again, there's this huge fight. I think this is the big narrative for this cycle, guys. So every cycle you have a thing. In 2017, it was all about what layer one was going to replace Bitcoin. Ethereum was the new Bitcoin. And there were all these layer ones that everybody was talking about, XRP and just a bunch of shit that nobody even talks about anymore. That's just trash and just gone. Right? There's a bunch of that. And if you look over at the crypto bubbles chart, and I'll probably take a moment here to do a hiatus. We got 12 minutes. Actually, we do have more data, so I'll look at that in a second. But if you look here by market cap, nobody's talking about BNB anymore. XMR, very few people talk about that. It's a privacy coin. Bitcoin Cash, that was going to flip and replace Bitcoin. That didn't happen. Tron, nobody gives a shit about that. Litecoin, who's talking about Litecoin? DOT, that was actually last cycle. XLM, that was 2017. There's a bunch in here. Zcash, ADA, that just people don't care anymore. This was the narrative for 2017. Then it turned into dogs and cats and all kinds of stupid shit like WIF and Doge and I don't know, Shiba Inu and whatever the latest dog coin was. And it all became meme coins, and that was the thing. And it was NFTs too, right? It was NFTs. Oh, hey, have you seen this NFT? I got this picture. I paid $20 million for it. It's going to be worth $100 million in a week. So that was a thing. I think for the first time, this cycle being driven off of Bitcoin ETFs around the world, being driven off of Bitcoin treasuries around the world, being driven off of, finally, for the first time ever, financial advisors are going to have their parent companies, Charles Schwab, all these others, companies that have hated Bitcoin and not wanted to talk about it, are now going to have their advisors being like, have you heard about the Church of Bitcoin? And that's a big thing because it's grown to what it is without any of that. And now we're going to get a lot more, which I think is amazing. You got Dave Ramsey, a show flipping now and talking about how Bitcoin is great for a diversified strategy. I think with MicroStrategy, everybody talks about MNAV, the premium on their NAV. I do think that this is true. I like this post. It didn't get a lot of views, but I liked what I saw in here. I'm going to follow this dude because I think he's spot on. I actually think that the PE ratio will start to become a thing. People will be like, oh, wow, this company is becoming profitable. They're talking about S&P inclusion later in the end of the year as a potential. We saw that with Coinbase just yesterday. And so you're going to see people starting to go, well, maybe this should be valued like a regular company. And why is its PE so low? Because it'll look ridiculous based upon how profitable it's going to be. Purdy, thank you for joining as a member, my friend. You can talk and chat now. Anybody who does that can talk and chat. And again, he's just talking about the $3 billion that came in. That's cool. Metaplanet had their earnings. I'm interested to see how things go today. A lot of good stuff in here. Revenue up 8% quarter over quarter. Operating profits are up 11% quarter over quarter. Net assets are up almost 200% quarter over quarter. Total assets 81%. We booked $7.4 billion valuation loss. Again, that's going to be the rough quarter. Q1 was the rough quarter for all the Bitcoin companies. BTC holdings, 3.9x year to date. That's the big number. The big number is the fact that they're going parabolic in their Bitcoin holdings. I love that. So I think it was a good earnings. It'll be interesting to see how it does this morning. Bitcoin sharks have been accumulating aggressively. This is a May 13th post, but again, we're seeing in here, if you look, BTC supply held by entities with a balance of greater than 100 to 1,000 Bitcoin is in orange. Look at the stacking that has happened and the ramp of it this year. So if you look down over here, we had a big parabolic phase. Then we had this sideways chop. And again, it was kind of going along, but increasing. But now it's going parabolic again. So the big guys, the 100 to 1,000 club. Yeah, Ramsey actually is talking about Bitcoin as being a diversified investment. But now you're seeing these 100 to 1,000, these pretty rich people looking to buy more, and they're realizing the value of it. Also, Bitcoin Munger said stark difference in Bitcoin funding rates between the top and today. We're going much higher. And what he's saying here is funding rates, when people are leveraged long to the upside and they're doing, 10, 20, 50x leverage, it's a bad deal. It means that we're probably not going much higher because the longs are paying the shorts interest and the shorts are getting richer. And so you don't want that. You want it to where it's pretty muted or maybe even negative where the shorts are paying the longs. We're seeing that now. And if you look at Bitcoin's price, the other time over here when it was in the red, it was getting ready to signal a takeoff in Bitcoin's price. And look what happened, this black line. So we went from red to up and then just up and away. And that's what you want to see, and that's what we're seeing right now. We're seeing more of this just kind of, again, look at the funding rates. Over here, you could say, well, it went red here, and that didn't do that. But yeah, the funding rates were still, for the most part, each day, whatever the reporting is on this, probably daily, they were still really high because it went down here, and then it bounced straight up, and then it got really high again, and then it went negative, and then it started to soften, and then it went up a little bit, and now it's down. Now we're seeing just this really boring period, kind of like we saw over here, where we're ready to rock, and I love that. Again, CleanSpark got a revision, and multiple revisions. This is from Clear Street, showing that it's got a $25 price point. That's pretty awesome when it's sitting at $9.43 today. Yeah, again, same thing. This is the same thing over a different time frame, just showing the overheating of the funding rates and how it topped off in price, how it happened here, This is just a different view. Hey, thanks for the gifted memberships, Hef. Hey, all you guys that just got a membership gifted, you can actually ask questions now and talk and chat. So I appreciate you doing that, Hef. And so, again, we're nothing like that right now. We're nowhere near the top, guys. We're not. This is what a top looks like. Funding rates. This is another great tool, another one in our tool set. I think I have about 9 right now. I probably need to articulate those in another video of things that I'll be watching to look for tops. But we're nowhere near that. And we're getting ready to take off, and it's going to be taking off in a huge way. So just pay attention again to the signal, not the noise. And again, just Metaplanet. I want to talk about that 3.9x, the best thing from their quarterly earnings report, because their next earnings is going to be sick, in my opinion. I think we'll be closer to, let's see, by the end of June, I want to say we'll be closer to $140,000. And so if that happens, you'll be jumping from I think it was 80 in the 80s or maybe high 70s from Q1 at the end of the quarter to this much higher number. And let me see, I can just confirm that real quickly. Let's just look over here. Sorry, I'm going to use the one down below. So the quarter ended in end of March. Where are we? March, right over here. So, yeah, so we were right around, 82,000. 82,000. So if we go from 82,000 in one quarter to 140,000, the change that you're going to see in these balance sheets for MicroStrategy, for the Bitcoin miners, for Metaplanet, and so much more is going to be sick as fuck. And people are going to start reevaluating, and you're going to hear about price targets going higher, all kinds of stuff that's going to be happening. Again, $730 billion JP Morgan just settled its first ever transaction on a public blockchain. Now, this is their own creation. I can't remember if it's Ethereum based or what. Maybe chat knows. But again, this just, though, gets them closer to being intertwined with the digital currency environment, and Bitcoin and these other things like Solana and stuff are just going to be more intertwined into all of it. And it will just increase the amount of creation that we have. New guy, don't ask dumb questions. Jesse doesn't hesitate to block. Only if you're dipshit. Otherwise, I don't care. Like, if you're not being a dipshit, you're not shitting on Trump or Elon Musk or something else with stupid comments that don't provide value, you're good. Would you consider Bitcoin lending or only? I actually don't think Bitcoin lending would be bad. I would do it with somebody like Jack Mallers, though, somebody who is not rehypothecating your money. People who are taking your investment and moving it somewhere else to earn yield. That is fucked up. That is how we saw a bunch of failures across the crypto sector, whether it was Luna or whatever. There were so many. There are too many to name, especially exchanges rehypothecating money to give you yield. That's bullshit. But Jack Mallers isn't doing that. Now, he's giving you a high interest rate on the debt. But think about this. If you're rich, I want to talk to this real quick because I think a lot of people don't understand this concept. Let's say you've got $50 million. Rich people, and you've got, let's say, 10 million in Bitcoin. Rich people don't sell. They don't sell. They borrow. And so if you know that you can borrow against your Bitcoin, it's not going to be rehypothecated, and you can take that money and buy more Bitcoin, or leave it as cash and then buy on a dip more Bitcoin, why wouldn't you do that? Because Bitcoin's certainly going to do better than 10 to, I think right now Jack's rate is like 12%. It's super high. He's going to try and get it under double digit here as quickly as he can. That's just how new markets are. He's literally creating the beginning of it. But why wouldn't you do that? Why would you suffer a tax rate? Let's say you sold a million. Why would you suffer, even if long term, let's say 20% on average or 18% tax rate, when you can borrow against it at, let's say, in the future here, 9% probably by the end of this year, beginning of next? Why would you do that? Why would you sell it and incur a tax obligation, especially if you made a lot of money off of it? Why wouldn't you instead just borrow against it and get what probably will be at least a 25 to 30% yield yearly going forward on the low end? Why wouldn't you do that? Why incur taxes at all? Why not just borrow money? So I think that's something that does make sense. Ding, ding. We got a ding, ding. All right, we can go there. I'll pull that up. And then we need to get back because we missed some data points too. And I want to see what those look like. Real quickly, I'm going to let you guys, I'm going to hit the restroom super fast. I'm going to get my coffee. So we'll get you the ding ding. That's going to be coming in a minute, and I'll be right back, okay? Let me just adjust this. There you go. Be right back. 50 seconds. Be right back.
Let's get that opening bell in the CNBC Real-Time Exchange. The big board, Real Estate Investment Trust American Tower, celebrating its 30th. At the NASDAQ, it is eToro, celebrating that IPO from yesterday, Jim, closed almost 30% above the IPO price.
Wow. There's real money being made, and I feel like that this is the beginning. We have an M&A deal, Foot Locker with Dick's, and David, you know that we're getting a couple IPOs. We're hearing a lot of the chatter that I am. Maybe in this window before the summer, we're going to have some activity.
Looks like we might, especially if the markets cooperate, and that's the key, of course, because I think there had been a hope and an expectation that would have taken place in the first quarter. Didn't, but we are starting to see things pick up.
But if you're someone on the sidelines and you see what happened to eToro, don't you say, you know what, maybe I want to get this deal done?
Yeah. Yeah, you filed and you try and get out if you can, because you know the window can close very quickly.
Yes, it can. But
We've done our part here. Let's close this. Let's kill that. We don't need to hear that noise. All right, let's see how the market is doing today real quick here. So MicroStrategy down about 1%. Miners down like 1 to 2. It looks like Iron is down 4.5. So you're right. People didn't like that too much. Tesla's down 2.5. Palantir's down almost 1. SoFi's down less than 1. That's not too bad, actually. I think the market's doing all right. Game over, guys. Game over. Why is the game over? Why is the game over? Let's check fear and greed real quick, and then we'll look at the big picture here too. Is the stream doing okay? I got a weird message. Are you guys okay? Can you guys hear me? No. Okay, so it looks like we're doing all right. So this hasn't updated. We're not seeing anything crazy there. I'm curious too. I want to look at the CME super fast and see if anything changed with today's data. Sometimes it takes longer than that, but you never know. No, it's about the same. So about 8. It was 8.3. It's 8.2. We'll see if it updates any higher. July, we have chances of a rate cut being at 36%. So again, not great, but hopefully we'll see more of that in a little bit. Let's go over here. This was pre-market. This is what we saw pre-market. Let me refresh that real quick and just look at it and see if it's getting any better. So that's pre-market. Now let's look at now. Yeah, a little bit. Some areas are doing all right. Looks like Tesla right now is actually only down 1.82. So today doesn't look bad, actually. I think it might be a day where we recover. If we look over here at Bitcoin, again, it's already had a decent little bounce. Could stop here. Maybe it rolls over again before going higher. I think it's probably gonna bounce. Let me see here. So the indices, we've got the S&P down 0.27, NASDAQ down 0.37, Russell down 0.17. So nothing too crazy. I've got an alert going off here for Tesla. Let me just move that. I'll just move it higher. So we'll see if we get that gap. Let's look at some charts real quick here. So over here with Tesla. So again, we did hit that fib level. And it looks like we're finally slowing down. There's a lot of volume up there, right at the fib. So this could be a decent resistance zone. Let me switch to the daily here. So we have that gap down here. Can we get to that? I really doubt it. I doubt it, honestly. I wouldn't mind it if we did, but I just doubt it's going to happen. So I'm going to put this, I'm going to put that alert right there because I want to hear it once we start to cross over that fib again. But yeah, so I don't know. Maybe we retrace. This is where the peak volume is. It's possible we just grind here and then start to rotate up again. We'll see what happens. Right now, down 1.75%, so nothing crazy. Let's look at MicroStrategy and see how it's doing today. Oh, how's Metaplanet too? Metaplanet's down 2%. That's not bad. Here, I want to look at that one real quick first. I want to probably pull up charts for a second here, guys. So, and I almost need to, I need to think about how I'm doing this here. I need to probably look at the Japanese version of this. No, that's probably pretty right. So this is the February bottom. This is the top that happened in March. Well, no, this is only a 2025. I need to probably draw my chart off the other one, which sucks. Let me see if I can do that. Metaplanet. Do you think United Healthcare drop is overblown? I think it is. Wasn't it? Didn't we find out the Wall Street Journal article was bullshit? Is that true? I don't really pay attention to United Healthcare, but yeah, I thought that the article actually, they found out that it was like not accurate and it was just another hit piece from Wall Street Journal. So if that's the case, oh, I grabbed the wrong one here. No, I don't want that. I want Metaplanet. What is it? Tokyo. Okay. I hate using this one. It's probably still pretty accurate with the others. So let me just see here, because I want to draw this better. Yeah, I'll probably draw it from here. I might have to look at this a few different ways to figure out how I want to draw it. I'm probably going to do this for now. So you can see that fib. So that's cool. That's interesting. Let me do this a little bit differently. So it does look like we're establishing a base on this one from multiple levels, which I like. I love that. But I'm going to start probably... I'll probably start from here. This should be a more accurate. It's kind of hard with this one because it's so parabolic. Yeah, so here it looks like resistance. That's fine. That's perfect. Decent amount of volume right there. So once we break above for Metaplanet, once we break above, this is like the 640 number now though. That's what I hate. I hate this so much. It's got it in like yen. But yeah, it does look like so really all I can look at here is the percentage. I wish I had a better historical. I might have to figure out how I can draw that. But I do think that once we break out here, we're set to fly. I think we can get like a 70-80% increase in a very short period of time, probably like in the next month. Looks like Bitcoin is dropping a little bit. Stocks are dropping a little bit. So I don't know. It's maybe just some pessimism again on the margins. So nothing too exciting there. Let me go back over. Hey, Jesse, what's your price target on Metaplanet? Mine, probably 10x. Probably 10x. I think this one, it's got... and let me look here. This is Metaplanet Inc. Let me go back over here. Let me pull something up. I'll look it up here in a second. While I'm doing that, I'm just going to jump over here and continue my Bitcoin path, and then I'll go over that later. Update on M2 versus Bitcoin. Again, this shows us roughly in like the 140,000 range, 140 to 150. CFTC. So this is Jake. He said CFTC is in a bit of a holding pattern until Quintins is confirmed as chair, but then hopefully we'll see progress on new rules related to crypto. In regard to perpetuals, 24/7 trading, prediction markets, DeFi protocols, and front ends. More if market structure legislation gets done. So again, this is really good stuff. The more we see with this, the better. The more we see CFTC coming in and assisting with regulation, the better it's going to be. What's the premium on Metaplanet better than MSTR? It's actually worse, but it's a smaller company. The premium on Metaplanet, let me get over here real quick. Nope, that ain't it. Where is it? This one? No, that's my Substack. It's in here somewhere. Sorry, I've got so many things open. So many things. Here it is. I think this is it. So Strategy has a premium. It says diluted diluted shares of 2.2, and then Metaplanet is currently sitting at 3. So it's actually worse, but it's a smaller company too, so it kind of evens out. All right, let's go back over here. I want to watch this real quick. It says most people don't realize this about Bitcoin. Let's just listen real quick here.
The one important thing to remember about these ETF inflows, not just the surge we've seen recently, but since the beginning, because it's been an absolutely phenomenally performing ETF. And this is a very important point that's overlooked. This is being done with the asset managers not allowing their salespeople, their financial advisors, to recommend it. So that's extraordinary. That's like a shoe salesman not being able to recommend Nike, right? So that's going to change at some point. And I'll sort of leave it to your viewers to determine what happens when that thundering herd of brokers can actually pick up the phone and recommend this ETF. The one important thing to remember about these...
And that's like we're on the doorstep of that. That's one of the points I was making earlier. Also, altcoin season, if you look at this in regard to like the Bitcoin versus altcoins, and you look at this support line, this is when the 2017 cycle started. This is when the 2021 cycle started. And this is when the 2025 cycle should be starting as well. So from historical reference, this is the time for us to become risk on. And this is what I believe we're seeing too within the broader markets. All right, so yeah, and the Metaplanet chart, I should just use this other one. I should just go back to here. MTPLF. I'll just have to... Yeah, I'll have to become more creative. Whatever, it's kind of essentially giving us the same thing. It's just showing it under a larger block. And maybe, you know what? Maybe I'll do it this way. This will probably be more easy to view. And it's going to be accurate enough. It'll give me a better idea of like the shorter term price targets. So I'm just going to draw it this way. There we go. That's going to be better. So we're trying to establish our base here around 428, which also is where peak volumes hit. I'm going to actually freeze that and save it because that's a better chart. And again, I love this one. I love this one a lot because the market cap says 2.31 billion. So even though it's got a higher NAV premium, The ability for this thing to rocket is really high. And again, we got some volume down here too. We got tons of volume here. This is definitely an area where you establish your base before going higher, and I think it can go a lot higher. A lot higher, like a lot higher. I think it can go 18. 18 to 52 is not crazy at all on MetaPlanet. MetaPlanet and MSTR considered altcoins? Not really. See, here's the reason why. Here's the reason why I like these things better. Because a shitcoin can have all kinds of problems. It can have a rug pull. It can have all these different issues, right? But these treasury companies, for the most part, as long as they're simplistic and their design is good, your greatest dependency, you still have company dependency, but it's really tied to Bitcoin. It's not tied to some weird one-off shitcoin that could lose its narrative and nobody really talks about, and it was only hot for a minute. So I treat them like shitcoins, and a $2 billion cap is an incredibly cheap shitcoin, because if you look over here by market cap, it's not showing the percentage in here. Let me see if I can change this real quick. There we go. So if we look at the market caps here, XRP, 143 billion. Virtually no Bitcoin holdings. Solana's 88 billion. ADA's 27 billion. So what I'm talking about when I say 10x on MetaPlanet, that's including probably MetaPlanet just buying a bunch more Bitcoin, and again hitting this upper target that I gave up here, which is way up here, right? That would be like an 11x from where we are right now. And I don't know. I might buy some Soul Strategy. Somebody was talking about that a second ago. I might do that. But yeah, so if you look over here right now, what do they have for Bitcoin holdings? Like almost 7,000 Bitcoin. They'd probably have a lot more by the time they did that, because they're going to use that NAV premium to soak up more Bitcoin and then have it go higher with their overall holdings. So what could they be at the end of the year? I have no idea, but it's probably a lot higher than it is right now. And so and then if the price of Bitcoin goes up in conjunction with that, let's say it goes up 50% or if it doubles, you're going to see that just compounded on what their returns are, because they'll start looking at some of this as forward looking too. And so it's going to be a really good multiplier for a return, much safer than a shitcoin, in my opinion. And it kind of acts like a shitcoin because, again, if this thing went up 10, 11x, it would be the size of ADA, something that isn't used by anybody and nobody really gives a fuck about. Just like so many other shitcoins that are just kind of dead. I mean, Tron actually gets a little bit of utilization. It does all right in Asia, but like XLM and some of these others, there's just so much still in market valuation for these, and they don't even have Bitcoin holdings. And I think the treasury thing is really the hot one this time around, which means it's going to get better. No decay like MSTX. Yeah, I mean, it did go up when MicroStrategy went up a little over 3 months. When it went up 375%, MSTX went up 1,300. So that's a pretty good theta decay. Again, it's just all about it going up. It's all about it going up. That's where you do really well. It is a 2x daily fund, though, guys. So if MicroStrategy is down 1.14, and you're looking at MSTX, it being down 2.34, it's pretty normal, right? Especially, let's just look here. Let me do something. I'm looking at this, but I'm not showing it to you. So, again, this is doing 2x of what MicroStrategy is doing. And if we look here, how much have you made off of MSTX if you bought it from the bottom recently? So even now, you are up 170 plus %, 173%. So you did pretty good. You did pretty good. And what did MicroStrategy do over that time? Let's look here. So MicroStrategy did 80. Well, I'm sorry, right now it is up 73%. So 73%. And then what did Bitcoin do from that recent bottom? What is Bitcoin at? So its recent bottom was 100K, right? So this is what I want to talk about with outperformance. Everybody bitches about their miners and their MSTR and other stuff because they lost a lot of money from the top, from where it just grinded and rolled over, right? But let's see here real quick. So we had the bottom in April 8th. Okay, so let's look at Bitcoin in the bottom corner. So Bitcoin is up 1.6%. since that bottom, or wait, no, it's April. No, I need to go back. I'm not looking at the right time frame. 1 second. Let's just go back. What do we have here? April 7th. Let me go back here. Let's go back. April. Got to make sure I'm saying the right thing and not talking out my ass. Yeah, dude, I'm nowhere close to that. Let me get the right number. All right, let's see here. So that makes a lot more sense. So Bitcoin is up about 37%, and MSTR has acted as about a 2x to that, 73%, and then MSTX has went up 173%, a little bit lower than that now, about 170%. So 37% with Bitcoin, 173% with MSTX. I think Solana was up over 200% over that time frame. So again, these are multipliers. They're going to be a lot more helpful on the way up than they were on the way down. So you'll appreciate the 2x daily multiplier on MSTX as we continue to go higher. It's just not fun going down, and so you want to make sure that you get out of it. Jesse, could you run UNH Leap's options calculator? I bought 600 March 2026. I don't really care about United Healthcare, and I know nothing about it, or its projections or anything, so I don't really feel comfortable running. Like, you can run it yourself. I mean, there's the Options 101 video. And then pull up the free options calculator, options profit calculator, and then you can look at it and see what kind of potential returns you have. I just know nothing about United Healthcare at all, so I wouldn't feel good like talking about price targets and stuff like that, which kind of makes it a little less useful in my opinion. Anyway, let me put MetaPlanet off to the side. I want to keep rolling through stuff here. So not too bad of a day. Soul Strategy's getting hit, so again, I'll probably buy some of that here once I get offline. The shit coins are basically getting hit. IRN down 5%. CleanSpark down 4.53, but finding support on the 200 moving average, which would be a good place for it to find it on the weekly time frame. So it looks like Bitcoin is, like, the Bitcoin proxies are getting hit today too. MSTR is down 2%. Mara's down 3.16. It's finding support on the 100 moving average on the daily. Let's see what the weekly looks like. Here, let me move it to weekly and see if we're near the 200 as well. We haven't quite made it to the 200 yet on Mara, so Mara has moved with less strength. So again, it's not doing as well. So these proxies, they're probably getting a hit today. But again, just keep in mind, guys, again, how much they're up versus the underlying. I think that's really the important thing. Just remember that you're making a bunch of money and that you're going to have down days as we go higher, because it's normal. You can't just have up days all the time. And I do want to show this down in the bottom corner. This would be a great place for us to find support, is off this level again before going higher and maybe having something like a W bottom off this descending broadening wedge. So I still think all of it's really positive. Let's hop over here and just keep rolling through, see if there's anything else we want to talk about. Let's see, we got Brian Armstrong from Coinbase. Let's see what he has to say.
Hey y'all, I'm here in DC today trying to help get legislation passed for crypto. There's a big vote for the stablecoin bill coming up hopefully tomorrow. That's going to be a big important one. And then we're going to move on to market structure legislation, which is even more important. We've been meeting with members of the Senate on both sides of the House, and there's a lot of good excitement about getting this done. Like any good negotiation, there's a lot of details to work out at the last minute, but we've been stressing the urgency of this. There's 52 million Americans who want to see this legislation get passed. And we need to make sure the industry stays onshore here in America. It's also Stand With Crypto Day. Stand With Crypto invited over 60 founders to come meet with their elected representatives to underscore this message as well. So fingers crossed, it's an exciting historic moment. Let's see if we can get some legislation passed.
So that'll be the big, this is going to be like the big next step, right? Trade deals with India, stablecoin legislation getting passed, CFTC getting their appointment in place so that they can start pushing that along. And getting it to where all these protocols and just all this additional functionality is incorporated into the crypto and Bitcoin space. And again, just like a lower tax environment, getting the big, beautiful bill passed by hopefully the end of, really, we're talking the next 6 weeks that we're looking to have that passed across the House and Senate. And I think there's a really good chance of that happening, because I think there's a lot of people, even though there's a lot of rhinos on the Republican side that are trying to hold out for stuff, I don't think they're going to want to be a part of not not helping get a tax break across for the American people. I think it's impossible for them not to. Kindly MD Satoshi is up 7% today. Yeah, I think the treasuries are gonna kind of take their turns having parabolic moves. That's good to hear though. Dario says still red on MSTX and MSTU. Just want to flip green and rotate all into MSTR. That a good idea? I don't know. I still think they have a ways to go. So I'm not doing that. I'm not red right now though. I'm up 87%. Even with a drop here, I'm up 87% on MSTX. So my position might be a little bit different. But I still think they can do really well. And then again, I'm in Metaplanet now too, so I got a huge amount of that, $450,000 in Metaplanet, where I'm actually dialing in more to leverage, not less. But you guys do you. You know your own risk tolerance, and you know your own level of conviction. That's what matters. I can't give it to you. For some people I can, but not everybody. Michael Saylor, congratulations. Brian Armstrong coin being added to the S&P 500 again, and that was on the 12th. That's great. And I wanted to show this. So Kapoor posted this. It says ETH's recent rally has resulted in 80% gains since the lows. Major reasons institutions bought the dip. And so if you look here, inflows had the highest recorded levels in history on ETH. This is not a bearish market. This is people turning risk on. I need to find more charts and things on that too. Also, we have American Bitcoin Corp. Again, this is related to Trump Jr. Is backed BTC mining firm, plans to go public via a merger with NASDAQ-listed Griffin Digital Mining. So you're going to see another Bitcoin miner going on board with American BTC. Did you add MT Metaplanet in your portfolio? I did. I have 400. Yeah, I did. Let me show you. Let me pull this over real quick. I haven't updated it yet. I need to do that, but I did post these trades to everybody that's a subscriber on X, and you saw it on Discord. And I'd moved a large chunk of money. It's my cash position, a lot of my cash position, and then a decent amount of my MSTX MicroStrategy position. I moved over to Metaplanet because I think I'm going to do much better with that. And actually, if you look at it, so I've taken out some of that 2x leverage with that theta decay. And so on a day like today, when MSTX is down 3.7%, Metaplanet is only down 2%, which I love. And then on the up days, it's outperforming. So I'm getting a higher multiple with less downside risk. So I kind of love that. But yes, I've got a large position in that. Roughly a little over 10% of my portfolio now is sitting, probably 11%, almost 12% of my portfolio is sitting in, probably 11 something, is sitting in Metaplanet. And I love it. I think it's going to be a great opportunity. All right, I think that's it for the Bitcoin side of things. Did we get through Tesla? I feel like maybe we did, partially. The Bitcoin, I don't think we did all the way, so I'm going to jump back into it. So this is the Boring Company, and I know this is boring and nobody talks about it, but for the first time, the Boring Company is continuously mined in 0 people in tunnel configuration, ZPIT. There is nobody in the machine besides the videographer, which is simultaneously advancing forward and erecting a ring. Each full ring weighs 24,000 pounds. In the same way that a full rapid reusability is the holy grail for rockets, ZPIT continuous mining is the holy grail for boring machines. This is the safest, fastest, and least expensive architecture to build tunnels. It's like an order of magnitude 10x better than the previous way as far as speed and cost structure. This is going to be great when we're boring tunnels in Mars. But it's just amazing. Again, it's great stuff. We already talked about the FCC with SpaceX. I wanted to throw this out there. It is no small thing that Elon is meeting leaders of the free world, and you're seeing him getting his companies better intertwined with these different countries, with this man. And look at Trump. Look at the communication here between the prince and Trump and Elon Musk. Just watch the body language. Look at that. You see how Trump not only shakes his hand, but he brings it in with Musk because it's his friend, and then he starts pointing at him and talking to the prince about how great Musk is. I mean, it's just, and he's like, they're probably both being like, yeah, dude, he's a badass. This is wonderful. This is the kind of stuff you want to see. You want Elon. Elon made the right move. I remember everybody talking about his political suicide, that he was tying himself to Trump. Does that seem accurate now? We already talked about this, the analyst rating. Semi trucks, again, this is a Dallas to Houston test with another system. This is nothing in compared to what the semi is going to be doing. We already talked about Neuralink going live here. Cantonese Cat had this monthly chart that showed how beautifully Tesla had found support off of previous resistance. Much shorter time frame here, but this is great. I expect it to go higher. We talked about that. Again, vehicles driving themselves out of factories, hanging out in Qatar. Gary Black's an idiot. Let's see if there's anything else here. Highway approval in Europe. We talked about that. Unsupervised Tesla FSD will rapidly expand to the whole country. Yes, I agree with that. That's going to happen. When is this one? This one is from May 3rd. This is a little bit older. And Elon, I don't have it doesn't look like I can find the bookmark here, but Elon is talking about how he needs to start focusing on creating, increasing energy production to be able to keep up with his own AI, robotics, and transportation needs. So I think the energy side of the business is going to start to explode in a lot of different ways. And so I would expect that to happen too. I think all that's really great. Let's look. We didn't look at more economic data. We've had more coming. So we had the 815 data that we didn't look at. Let's just take a look. So industrial production, let's look at the year over year, 1.5%, better than expected and better than previous. Industrial production is better. That is fucking great, in my opinion. Look at this. So we had a 1.5% off of a 1.3 and the previous a 1.4 and the one before that 1.7. So 1.7, there's only been one other time, and then two times we're tied with the second time. So this is the second highest reading since November of 2022 for industrial production. I love that. Capacity utilization is 77.7, it looks like. It's slightly lower than previous. It's right. It's just a hair underneath consensus and forecast. This is still a good number. Let's look at what capacity utilization has done over the last 5. So again, it's trended down really hard into January 2024, and now it's kind of chopped sideways. So it's not looking bad. I would like to see it go higher. Let's look here. Manufacturing production. Yeah, so manufacturing production, 1.2%. Let's see what number this is. The best, 1.2%, the best number since 2022 at 2.2, or I'm sorry, October 2022. So manufacturing and industrial production are picking up speed, guys. I fucking love that. We're waiting on business inventory and the NAHB housing market index. That's probably going to suck. Retail inventories, ex autos. I'm interested to see what inventories are sitting at. So this is good, though. This is good. I feel like we're still seeing that bottoming pattern that I was talking about. Visa increased to a 10-week high over the past 4 weeks. Let's see what that's about. Oh, this is just the ticker. I don't care about that. All right, so we still got inventories coming out. I'm going to look at chat. Coinbase files 8K saying they were hacked. Oh, okay. All right. Yeah, somebody was talking about that earlier. I think it was just to get somebody got information, right? Not that they got access to wallets or any of that stuff. If anybody could confirm, that'd be great. LW Crypto. Well, it looks like before that, Sawyer, Elon loves his tunnels. I agree. LW Crypto, thank God Elon is not in South Africa anymore with what's going on. Oh, he'd probably be dead already. Mike, Elon does nothing but win. True. Same with Trump as of late. Dylan, thoughts on Grab? I don't really pay attention to it. It's a Southeast Asian market. I know Amit talks about it a lot. I'm not really focused on that area of the world as far as an investment opportunity. I personally think that the Middle East and India and Central and South America are going to be better investment opportunities. That's my take. Business inventories, 0.1%, almost perfectly in line. Previous was 0.2. Consensus was 0.2. Forecast was 0.1. So not really too much changing as far as that goes. Business inventory is pretty much the same. Housing market index, weaker than expected. I mean, that's not a surprise to me. Maybe if we lowered rates, we could actually help our fucking real estate sector. Anybody for that? Powell? Calling Powell? Retail inventories, ex autos, 0.4%. That is at consensus, higher than 0.1% previously and higher than the forecast of 0.1. So I'd say all this is pretty good, right? Industrial production, great. Manufacturing, or I should say improving, the best in years. The best in like 26 months, 27 months. Same with manufacturing production. And again, PPI, some of the best reads we had, getting lower. Love that. New orders doing great. Outside of prices paid, new orders doing great. I expect prices paid to get better as far as dropping. Employment, great. CapEx looking wonderful. Business conditions, massive whipsaw up. So, excuse me. So Philly Fed manufacturing, way better than expected, still negative. Previous was a negative 26.4. We got a negative 4. Forecast for negative 11 and negative 10. And then again, New York State, slightly better too. Oh, God, my throat. Excuse me. All right, what does Grok say? The hackers bribed employees and contractors to obtain internal system data, including customer names and addresses and emails, but did not access login credentials or passwords. Okay, so that's actually not too bad, but that's insane that happened. And that kind of attack is probably the easiest to do. It's like a soft attack, getting people to give you information, whether either deliberately or just inadvertently because you're fishing for it. So that's kind of a normal hack. Breaking India trade secretary says U.S. working with India on joint statement on trade. What? Bitches. What? That's a big deal. That's a big deal. That's a big deal, bro. Do you have that link? Can you send me that link? Tag me with that link if you could, dude. I'm going to look through here. I want to see that. Yes, I probably will. I'm probably buying Soul Strategies if I get to it. Pontiac Aztek, greatest vehicle ever made. Okay. Does anybody have that link about India? India Trade Secretary. Maybe this is it. Yes, thank you. Let me just double check this. I want to see the source. Fuck yeah. Okay, that's legit. That's legit. Sweet. Stock Market News wouldn't put that out if it wasn't real. Let me see if they have a source. No. Okay. All right. That's good, though. That's fucking great. Thank you very much, man. That's great, guys. So it looks like we got a little bounce in Bitcoin. Let's see what Tesla's down 2.51% still. Let's see how the rest of the market. Palantir down 2%. SoFi down 3%. Soul Strategies down 6%. I might buy a little bit of that now if it doesn't go up too quick. Iron Energy getting better, down 4.77. CleanSpark down 4.21, getting a little better. Mara down 2.6, getting a little bit of a better. We're seeing a little bit of a bounce because Bitcoin's bouncing. And I think based on this joint message, which I don't think is out very much, so I might actually start to do some buying right now. I'm just going to take a look here and see what the best deal is. I think I'm going to go with Soul Strategies. Yeah, I think I'm going to. It's had a nice little 2-day drop. Thank you guys for giving me a heads up. You guys are awesome, man. This is the great thing about teamwork. I love it. Let's see. What does Soul Strategies go for? It is 261. So maybe I'll do like 1,000. Is that not enough? I don't know. Limit. Why is this not showing the limit order correctly? Do I have to do a limit order? I do have to do a limit order. Yeah, okay, whatever. 2.61. Is that right? Yeah, okay, I can do that. That would be what, 2,000? Oh, maybe I need to do more if I'm going to buy that. I'll do 2,000. Just a baby amount. So just a little nibble on Soul Strategies. I might buy some other stuff too. We'll see. Oh, there you go. My throat finally cleared. But yeah, so it's looking pretty interesting. Let me see. Bro chose SoFi over Hood. Ouch. All right, what do we got? The Biden administration did nothing but sell Bitcoin, whereas real Donald Trump has been buying the dip. The Trump pump is coming. U.S. year-over-year supply change. Tenor. Yeah, what do we got here? All right, Tanner loves the CEO. That's cool. Got any NVIDIA, NVDL? They don't need China anymore. I think that's going to be interesting because, again, they've got a chip that kind of goes around and skirts some of the issues with the ban on Chinese chips. What was it, the H100 that they couldn't get in? So they're already up 54%. That's a hell of a bounce. But then you have the deal with, again, the Saudis, and probably more with UAE, I think, coming too. I think SMCI is the best way to play this. The Indian news is great. It'll be great if we start getting the S&P 500 in India too. It will only enrich their society. By the way, where's that Metaplanet thing you were talking about? Thing? You mean the stock? What do you mean by thing? Sorry. It's operating like a 3x NAV or something. It's down 1.45% today. Peak volumes is right underneath us, or I guess it's up here if you zoom out the full way. But I do think this is a bounce zone. We just want to get above 4.2 roughly, and then that'll be good. So if we get above 4.2, this is a good consolidation zone. The very worst case scenario would be like $3.67, I think, because that's where you start to find previous resistance turning into support, and it was support over here for a minute, and then you would probably see that turn into support again before wicking higher. So it's a good one, and again, they have the higher multiplier on the NAV. They're a smaller cap. It's a little over $2 billion. So that's 2.11 here, but I think it's actually higher than that. It's 2.32. So this thing can go a lot higher, a lot higher. I like I said, I think the peak for this cycle would be anywhere between 18 and 54 for the price target, which would get it up to $25 billion. Guess can't buy on my broker. Yeah, unfortunately, that's a number of brokers don't do that. It's an OTC trade, an over-the-counter trade. I know Ally does it. Interactive Brokers probably does it. Robinhood does not do it. But there's probably a few others that you can do too. I might get more Soul Strategies. It looks like it dropped just a little bit more, down 8% on the day. So I might pick up like another. I think I'll be 10K in today. I'm just kind of nibbling, not doing anything too crazy. Let me do that real quick. 2.56, down 8% on the day. So on average, I'll probably buy it down about 7 on the day. All right, I'm going to try and lock that in, see if that closes. Yeah, sorry, there's a lot of people that can't buy Metaplanet. Unfortunately, that's the way it works with brokers sometimes. Simler Scientific is down. Down in what way? The price down? I mean, everything's down, right? Bitcoin's down 1.5%. MSTR is down 2.12%. Tesla's down 2.5%. This is kind of the day for everything to chill. Here's the deal, guys. I'm probably going to end it here, but I just want to say this. This is a great consolidation, and it's normal. It's normal. It's normal because if we look at the NASDAQ, you want days like today because you can't have every day be an up day. And I'm sorry, if you're looking at the NASDAQ right now and you're thinking bearish, I don't know where the fuck you're coming from. Because look at this. Look at this. If you're not ready for a little bit of a pause and some rotation, I don't know what to tell you. There's been virtually, like since here, we had, again, a drop and kind of a retest. But for the NASDAQ, since April 22nd, it's basically been straight up. So having a little bit of a consolidation is perfectly normal and warranted, I think. Speaking of brokers, what would be the best long-term broker for a college kid to start with? I don't know. I haven't used Interactive Brokers, but I hear a lot of people say really great things about it. My primary is Ally, but again, I've been moving a bunch of money to other exchanges too. So I don't know if I know the best broker. Maybe you guys in chat could speak to it. But again, between the NASDAQ and then just looking again, let's look at the S&P. Also, beautiful bounce, beautiful record-breaking bounce. This is super bullish. This is all bullish. I'm not remotely worried about anything. Even Dow Jones Industrial is doing great. And transportation looks like it's coming back around. This is actually bullish as of today. Everything looks, again, what matters is industrial manufacturing was good, or was good. Manufacturing was good. PPI was low. Producer prices looked low. Or producer price or index, sorry, looked low. Prices were actually up a little bit. But CapEx was up. New orders were up. Everything looked great. Jobs looked like they were maintaining well. It all looked like really good economic data. Now, tomorrow we're going to have more. Tomorrow we'll have export and import prices. Nobody cares about housing. That'll look abysmal. And then we have Michigan-related data. So consumer sentiment, all the survey shit, which is pretty worthless right now. But I would assume that it's better for May preliminarily. It's better for May because, again, you're going to have people that are all of a sudden like, whoa, hey, maybe things are looking better. Because we've got that massive drop in tariffs against China. So I could see this looking positive tomorrow, and I could see export prices. I don't know, maybe those go up more again. Kind of makes sense that export prices would go up. I don't expect import prices to go up. Again, if we look over here at import prices, they've been falling since December. I would expect that to probably continue. Maybe it gets a little bit of a bump. These are April, so maybe it gets a little bit of a bump. But then again, export prices are looking strong, and that's kind of we're in the positive, I should say, at least, and kind of have been since, the end of last year and a little bit of the summer of last year. So we want to see export prices going up. We want to see that our exporters are able to demand a higher dollar amount. I think those things are coming. Maybe not for the April data. We'll see. Chris, Schwab is my favorite. Hood is easiest for noobs, in my opinion. Shitty fills in Hood. Yeah, that's true. Because, again, order flow. You get paid for order flow. That's probably a really good summary. Andrew, Interactive Brokers is in Canada more to like Schwab or retail like Hood. I don't know. Ally isn't bad. I've been using it for a long time. Used to be Trade King. For anybody who remembers what things looked like at the Great Financial Crisis, it used to be Trade King. All right. I think I'm done. Again, this isn't, even though the prices are down today, guys, I'm not seeing things that make me scared at all. Also, I want to show this. I like the dollar, where we're sitting at with the dollar. Let's look at some of these other charts. So again, the dollar started to climb. It got rejected here. It looks like it's still going to roll over. That's what I expect to have happen. And I think that would be great. If it goes down and tests this lower range, this is better for exporters. I love that. Oil was creeping up higher and kind of starting to scream higher. We don't want oil to scream higher. It got rejected at about 64. It's down to 61. I think it's going to roll over into the 50s. I think that's a good thing. Gold started to get a little bit of a bounce today. I think it can do that for a minute, but I think it's going to roll over too. I probably don't need to look at that chart. Scott Melker is afraid that all the new Bitcoin treasury companies are going to accelerate the next bear market due to being highly leveraged. Does Scott Melker know why? Will it accelerate things? Yeah, it'll probably accelerate to the upside. Will that accelerate the time frame that it takes to go down? Yeah, probably. We like bubbles. We like them on the way up. That's how we make our money. And we're nowhere near a bubble on the treasury companies. They're not leveraged enough. And again, you got to look at the rates they're getting, guys. When Metaplanet's getting a convertible bond that isn't due for years, and it's at 0%, if you think that that's going to cause some kind of massive cascading down, I don't know what to tell you. Scott Melker has also been bearish everything Trump. He hates Trump. I don't know what he would think of an Elon Musk. I don't know what he thinks of new technology. I don't know what he thinks of a golden age or any of this other stuff. I don't know if he thinks very highly of it. He's just a Bitcoin guy who listens to a lot of other people that don't like Trump. And so all I can say is I think you kind of get what you focus your energy on. If your energy is pessimistically focused, you're going to get that as a response and as a dial. And I am not that way. I'm super fucking excited, honestly. I'm super excited. And I think we're going to get a bounce right here. I think this is it. Anyway, I'm going to go. Love you guys. Have a good rest of your day. Let's play out some kind of video here. Go out and enjoy the rest of your day. Peace out, guys. See ya.
It's your boy, Big Tucker, back again with another one. I support the current causes. I have empathy and manners. I got pronouns in my bio. Pray for countries in my banner. Can't wait to get my 7th shot. It's written in my planner. I don't use emojis. They appropriate those to word tanner. Wait a minute. You didn't post a Black square for Black Lives Matter? If you don't wear a mask, that makes you an anti-masker. If you don't get the vax, that makes you an anti-vaxxer. If you don't watch Full House, that makes you anti-Danny Tanner. You don't listen to Nelly? You're anti-country grammar. You're Home Depot-ophobic. Why are you so anti-hammer? Maybe you're anti-ladder, anti-former, anti-ladder. Are you anti-Aaron Rodgers? Or more like anti-Packer. You're a dude but won't wear makeup, but why are you so anti-glamour? You don't think green lives matter? Why are you anti-Bruce Banner? You don't like the Rolling Stones? Wow, you're anti-Mick Jagger. If you're offended by my rhymes, it makes you anti-rapper.
Call me racist, call me bigot, call me homophobe. All because I know the difference in your chromosomes. We living in the clown world, got the only hope. When these politicians puppets like Pinocchio. I'm so anti-everything, I'm so anti-everything. I'm so anti-everything, I'm so anti-everything.
Literally shaking right now. That is my slogan. Ivermectin is a horse drug for people like Joe Rogan. Fidel Castro is my hero, not the Nazi Ben Shapiro. We should all just go inside until the carbon net is zero. I'm anti-sound of freedom, anti-cop until I need them. Use minorities for virtue signaling, that's how I treat them. I'm so anti-Tesla, bro. I'm anti-gas and coal.
Wait, but don't those two contradict each other?
Well, yeah, I know. I'm so anti-chromosome. Also anti-Alex Jones. Trump was in the movie, so now I am anti-Home Alone. Voted Biden because he said that he'd forgive my student loans. I think kids should be allowed to cut off their boobs and the jokes. I'm so anti-two genders. I'm anti-Bruce Jenner.
Oh, wait, she's transgender.
Goes against our agenda. A trans exclusionary radical feminist, which is a term we just made up but doesn't really exist.
Call me racist, call me bigot, call me homophobe. All because I know the difference in your chromosomes. We living in the clown world, got the only hope. When these politicians puppets like Pinocchio. I'm so anti-everything, I'm so anti-everything. I'm so anti-everything, I'm so anti-everything.
What's up, it's your boy High Res, out here.
Oh, I'm muted. So this is High Res TV. It's a Jewish group. And this is a lot of the Trump videos that I play on here. They're great. You guys should check them out. Anyway, peace out. You guys have a good day. Bye.